go. We're going. We're good. Welcome. That was enthusiastic, right, Chris?
Welcome.
Let's go.
This is episode 5 of CornStars, brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com and Silent Hill Reptiles. So if you happen to get an awesome corn, or really any of the other stuff that JT and Mindy are doing, I think they had some bear attachment today. Some bears that I sent them, actually. You buy the steak from them, and then you go and you get a cage or a rack from BlackBox. Look at that. You get the awesomest corns, the awesomest cages, and you put them together. And please check them out, blackboxcages.com, silenthillreptiles.com. Follow both on Facebook and Instagram. All good people. I vouch for them both wholeheartedly. I am Justin Smith of Homodicus Exotics, as always, joined by Mr. Chris Painshab of Badlands Competiculture. And this week we are joined by Miss Sarah Mohr of Sarah's Snake Shop.
Hi.
She was someone, when we started the show, at least like the show, starting the show, not this episode, like she was on the list very quickly. So there's
Absolutely.
a list I threw together of people that's like, these have to happen. And her name was on that list.
Awesome. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
What's been going on?
You do a little season recap, see where we're all at with the breeding and stuff. Obviously, it's breeding season, which is such a exciting and tension-filled time.
Hurry up
Justin,
and wait.
Hurry up and wait. Justin, you got anything cooking right now? You got any locks? Any eggs?
I don't have any eggs yet, so Ladies Island female is definitely gravid.
Wonderful. Beautiful snakes.
I've been taking the male that I put with absinthe, the female you sent me.
Yeah.
He's been bouncing between her and the other locality female that I have. So I definitely felt eggs in the one Ladies Island female. The other female, I didn't feel anything yet, but she was looking pretty thick. And then the blood reds, I've had those together. They're both going into a shed. I don't know if it's going to be pre-lay. She's also looking kind of thick. And then, and then it's just Bairds. And I've had the thorn scrubs together too a lot. I haven't seen any action from them. They've just been hanging out under the hide together, but I haven't seen any sort of interest or breeding on the male's part. So I don't know what's going on with them. Everything else has just been paired, and now we're just waiting. So.
Those thorn scrubs, they're wild caught and they're shy, so you might not see anything. It happened.
They haven't come out from under. I haven't seen them out from under that hide in a hot minute. I just checked on them earlier before I got home, and they were both curled up, hanging out in there. So
usually, if they're cuddled up together and the female's not really trying to distance themselves from the male, I find if I'm leaving them like that, it's usually a good sign. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I'm hoping this blood red female is gravid though.
That's gonna be badass. Yeah, blood red, both pied.
Dude, he was trying like hell when I put him in there. I'd leave him in there for a day or two because I could tell he was pursuing her hard and she was not about it. So just for the sake of not stressing her out, I'd separate him for a day or two and then put them back together.
You get those males that have a little tenure to breeding, and they're just like kind of overly aggressive, and it's fun to watch them.
Yeah.
I have eggs on the ground. I have Pitchophis depigeni. I got eggs out of them. They pair early, so I got a nice clutch of 8 good eggs. Couple slugs. I got 9 last year. I got 8 this year. Happy about that. I got my first corn clutch this week. It's caramel Miami to caramel Miami. Both het diffused, het sun kissed, and those are the children of Hannibal. So I got a pair of holdbacks in I think 2000. I'm gonna say 2019 might have been 2019 from Silent Hill JT. Got him through one of the auctions that he did for Carpet Fest. Great cause.
Nice.
Great group of guys. Yeah, that's how I met JT. I won one of the auction vouchers and I bought 6 from him. And that little girl raised them both from little wiggle worms, and I got a clutch of 9 good eggs out of them.
I'm excited to see what comes out of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a baby Hannibal, and I'm so excited. So my Chinese beauties, calico to head calico, she just had her prelay, so that's exciting. It's my first year for
Nice.
them. Yeah, they're neat. They're fun.
Yeah, I had some calico Chinese beauties for a while. I love them. That's one of the first projects I want to get back into.
They're really neat animals. They're a little cryptic, a little whippy, a little runny, but man, they're really easy so far.
Mhm.
I don't have fertile eggs on the ground yet, so I can't say
Yeah.
that. As far as gravid, my blood red charcoal tessera project, I've got a gravid girl there. Oh, I probably got 3 or 4 gravid corns. My pewter girl looks gravid. My JMG coral ghost to ultramel motley het anery tessera boy. She's in prelay right now. I'm trying to think. I wrote it down and I'm like not even looking at it. I started getting, so I got all my cold stuff. So all my stuff that goes in the freezer, that's out. I started getting locks. So I have 3 confirmed locks from my Baja F2 Cali Kings, which are Ciudad Intergensis.
Close enough.
There, I got 3 locks from them. I've got 3 locks from my Ultra Granite Mex.
Didn't you say the Kings were locked up for like 12 hours straight?
Dude, the last time my Callies locked up was 12 hours straight. I had to squirt water on them to pull them apart
Shoot.
because I had to go to work, and I was waking up through the night to check on them because the female will eat the male. She's wrapped them up multiple times. So I feed them. I wait about 4 hours. I pair them up. A small meal, like a little hopper or something. They're really small Cali Kings. They're like, of all the Cali King localities, they're the smallest. So they're only about 3 foot. They're smaller than a corn snake.
Mm-hmm.
They're 4 years old too. They didn't go last year because the female just immediately tried to eat the male. I have some Leonis locks. Gopher snakes I've locked up again.
Kanks?
Kankakis, I've had 3 locks from them. The pines are doing absolutely nothing. So my northern pines and my black pines just don't even care about each other. So hopefully once I start getting some sheds out of them, a lot of these species are locking up before sheds. A lot of the king snakes will mate before shed, and their first shed will actually be prelay. So the Pitchophis I'm waiting on. Let's see here. My prized possession snakes, my Baja Gophers, my Cape Baja Gophers, they're cuddling up really good. I don't know. They're such secretive snakes that like you look at them and they just like get scared. So they're cuddling well. Other than that, man, there's probably a couple other things I'm forgetting, but yeah, that's gray bandits. I started pairing gray bandits, so both my gray bandit females shed, so I have those paired up, and yeah, so that looks promising. Again, I usually don't see locks out of gray bandits either. They're very, I have the wild caught male and then the F1 females, and I threw another male from the same locality in the mix. And so yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of poop, a lot of semen, a lot of blood, a lot of feeding, and it's
have fun with getting those alternative babies going, dude.
Hey, last year, 100% feeding rate. I got every single snake eating.
Wow.
Never breed them again. Okay.
So I will put a little caveat on that. One of those Alterna just started taking its frozen thawed mice this year from last. But we do tails, and then you go through we could do a whole show on getting gray bandits to eat. But yeah, I got a bunch of stuff that doesn't want to eat. Even like my Everglades last year didn't want to eat. So that took.
Glutton for punishment.
I'm a glutton for punishment. But yeah. Other than that, Sarah, what do you? Let's just got a recap on what you got moving for this season so far.
Everything's corn snakes. I have, I think, 5 or 6 different females. I have an ultramel Okatee het anery that's paired with a halo snow Okatee, and he's had caramel and motley, or possibly had anyway. I also paired his dad, who's also a halo snow, to another ultramel, and I paired him as well to a green blotch snow female. So I have some halo green blotch stuff going on. I paired a possible het golden with her son, hoping, of course, that we can tease out that golden mutation. And let's see, I feel like there's one more. I have a mystery female that I bought as a ghost blood red motley, and it turns out she's like none of that. She's at least anery. She's anery and motley, but like she's not a ghost, or she's not hypo or blood red. We proved that out last year, and We don't know what she is. She looks like a ghost motley. She doesn't look like she has blood red, but she looks like a ghost motley, but she's not. So we don't know what she is, but I paired her with just an Anery motley male. I know that they share hets, so I held back a male from her last year to hope to breed back to her in the future, maybe even next year because he's growing really well. So maybe once he's at his second year, he'll be able to breed. And everybody's in their pre-lay sheds right now, and I have one female that has laid eggs, and that female is just a regular Anery corn snake that I bred with another Anery. Well, she might be a red coat. I think she's a red coat Anery, but I just expect regular Anerys from that clutch. She was kind of I got her, she wasn't brumated, and was like, well, I guess I'll try to breed her to this other male. That was pretty much my thought process.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I should have all of my eggs, I think, if not by the end of April, by like early May.
Okay. Awesome. It's a lot.
Yeah, I'm curious as far as like what your timeline is with breeding seasons and stuff, because I know like JT and some of them do it a little differently than how I've always traditionally done it, at least with not even necessarily just corns, but other stuff. So, but we'll get into that in a bit. But who are you and what got you in the corns?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the Sarah story?
Well, I am Sarah of Sarah's Snake Shop, and I got into snakes when I was really little. My grandma had a 7-foot red-tailed boa, and I have pictures of me in my crib with that snake. So snakes have always been a part of my life, and I always used to catch garter snakes and stuff when I was a kid. But when I was old enough to get a job, I got a job at a pet store and saw the first snow corn snake I'd ever seen. And something about a very like pink and white snake was very fascinating to me. So had to have it. And because I was young and dumb and didn't do research when I was like 16, it escaped and I couldn't find it. But after actually growing up and doing research, I got another corn snake, and his name is Flair. And I now have many, many babies from him. And just after getting the one snake, I remember someone else came to me and said, like, we found a corn snake that had gotten out and it's not eating. So do you want it? And I'm like, sure. So then I had 2 snakes. And then I became suddenly known as this person that you could just drop off your corn snakes to if you didn't want them. So I ended up very quickly with like this accumulation of corn snakes. And some of them, I was told that a whole group of them were males. But 2 of them ended up being females, and so I got 2 clutches of eggs kind of by accident and decided to incubate them, and I was just hooked after that. That was forever. Ever since then, I have been hatching corn snakes every single year. Like that one accidental year that I had corn snake eggs by accident and then put them in a chicken egg incubator, I have been breeding every year since then. It was just one of those like instant like addictions. I don't know how else to put it.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, and I actually got I officially have my LLC as of this year.
Nice.
Yeah, super great. Taxes, yay. But I started Sarah's Snake Shop, I want to say like 8 or 9 years ago, when I knew that this was something that I was really going to be doing. I had my first clutch in 2011, and so this is going to be, I think, my 12th breeding season. And
wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I almost quit last year. I came so close because my husband and I, now husband, then fiance, were getting married, and we thought we were heading in the direction of children, and then we decided we were going to wait on that a little longer. So I am now like, well, this is still official. I haven't given up, and I just. That's most of the story. I don't know. I just became instantly addicted after the first clutch and never looked back.
That's awesome. I'll tell you right now. Don't even think about slowing down on breeding once you have kids. Because once I had my daughter, she's 5 now. I got a lot more serious about it because you're gonna spend a lot more time at the house. It's what a blessing children are.
You can only watch Frozen so many times.
No, you cannot. I could sing every song right now.
I mean, you could do some karaoke for us if you wanted.
A couple more White Claws. We'll see. But no, the the beauty of marriage is getting to be with somebody that you love, and you're going to spend the rest of your life with them, and that beauty is magnified by children. So whenever you guys do decide to make that decision, or you know what, it's not easy. It's not always an easy decision.
Yeah.
It's also not an easy thing to happen. There's a lot of struggles in there as well.
It is free labor as they get older.
Yeah, and
Chris
but
takes full advantage of that.
my kid loves working with me. She's 5 now. When she was about 3, she was already starting to help, and now she comes and cleans in the snake room. Well, snake and gecko room. I got a bunch of stupid geckos too. No, I say stupid. I love them.
Bunch of stupid geckos.
I have a bunch of geckos. I got way too many animals probably, but she helps me, and it's neat to be able to cultivate your attitude towards these animals with the kid. And I think with your positive attitude and your enjoyment with this, you'd find that pretty quickly. But I actually found myself getting way more serious about breeding reptiles once I had a child. In fact, the year she was born, that's when I bought my 2016. Shrek is. I think I bought I bought Shrek as an adult. He was my lychee. Yeah, I probably spent like 10 grand on reptiles the year my daughter was born, because I was like sitting at home and I was like, well, I'm not gonna go do anything. I'm not gonna go. But anyways, that's awesome. I did not know you've been breeding for 12 years. That's a serious number. That's a long time to be breeding snakes.
It's pretty crazy to think that it's been that long. My thought was maybe that I would stop in 2021 because it was like it started in 2011 and I would end in 2021. But then and it felt like that was the way it was going to go. But also, like, COVID has held a lot of things back, and I'm working from home most of the time now. My husband's full-time work at home, so it just was like, well, I have more time at home now, and apparently the working from home is going to be permanent, which is fine with me. I love working from home. I am not a super social person, as much as people like might see me that way online, because I am, bubbly and happy and stuff. But like, I don't like going out. That sucks. I would love just staying in my house, being with my snakes, and I'll answer phone calls for work in the meantime. So that's pretty much my life now, and I'm happy with it. But yeah, so that really like changed our outlook on a lot of things when it seemed like, oh, hey, we're going to be doing this sort of semi-permanently, so just keep breeding snakes.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Did you notice though an uptick in people like inquiries as far as what you had available with COVID and stuff like that? Because it seems like there was a lot of industries that sort of benefited from COVID and the fact that people had more time to do things. You saw people getting into house plants a lot more heavily. I know, like, cigar industry saw a huge boom from COVID because people were at home, they had nothing to do, and I guess some way or another they came across cigars and they wanted to get into that, so that became like a pastime a lot of people picked up. But I know, like, there's some people that breed as well, and they said that it was like business was really good because people were just at home. They're getting paid still. They weren't going out as much. They had all this extra money to spend. Did you notice any sort of uptick with COVID?
I had a lot more stories like that this year. I'm not going to say that I necessarily had a big boom in sales, because I really, I only produce maybe 10 clutches a year. And that's kind of been that way since the beginning. So I've always sold the same number of snakes, give or take. But I always love hearing people's stories when they message me, like, this is for my daughter, or this is for my sister or my wife or my husband. And there's been a lot more stories that are like, my husband and I are working from home now, and we really want a pet that we can look at in our office, or just sort of stories like that. Are a lot more prevalent, and it does seem like people are like willing to spend a little bit more money on snakes this year. There's definitely been years when if I priced something at $100, it was not going to sell. It had to be under $100, or it was just not going to sell. This year, I could price things at like $300, and people are like, "Here, take my money." So I think that has changed people's attitudes a little bit, because now that a lot of people are home, they want to value their home space a little bit more, and they realize that home space. Right. Yeah. They want that home space to be more interesting for them because they're spending so much time at home. And I think that snakes have really been a relief for people, or pets in general, especially low maintenance pets in general, I think have really brightened up the home. And even my husband and I, we got a fish tank. Like, I love snakes. He's not a huge like snake person. He's indifferent. He doesn't care. He's like, as long as the snake room doesn't smell, I don't care. So I just clean it more often than usual. probably as often as they deserve to be cleaned, to be honest. But like we got a fish tank, and we're also starting to grow plants because we have the time for that now. So I get it, I guess. But yeah, it seemed like there were less breeders contacting me this year than usual. It was more just individuals or like families who wanted pets instead of breeders wanting more stock, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, these last 2 years were really interesting, especially like after stimulus checks went out, and that there was a very different dichotomy in the kind of people that were reaching out to you for animals. Like I work with a lot of gargoyle geckos, and most of the people that were buying my gargoyles were like breeders, because I had like a specific line or something I was working with, and you know, they knew, okay, hey, I want something from that lineage. I'll you know, you're an avenue to get that. And the last 2 years, and some of the shows I have, I only event 2 shows a year. This year will actually only be 1 show, and the people at the shows are different. You know, Texas got really lucky. I say lucky. Texas isn't very lucky right now. When we had our COVID swings, I was very lucky at those times for my shows. So there was one show that I ended up canceling, just COVID concerns, just, you know, personal, having a child, working in an environment with, I have a lot of employees. But the shows I did vent, the people that were there looking for reptiles and were coming to my table and buying from me were very different than the people that I had seen before. So yeah, it's been an interesting. I think this year, which is the year where snakes should all be $300 each, because of ice and shipping and
shipping.
And the amount of money we're spending on gas to go to work, and you know, so obviously inflation's gone up massively. I think this year we're going to have a little trouble, because all of these struggles that we're having, others are going to have as well.
And I've actually gotten a lot more rodent sales this year, because people, like, rodent prices have gone up in all of the stores around me. And I'm still paying roughly the same price, maybe a tiny bit higher. But since I buy, you know, 1,000 rodents at a time, I can afford to resell those to my customers at half the price of the pet stores. So I actually had a lot of people come to me this year and say, like, hey, I know you breed snakes, but we already have a snake. Can you sell me some rodents? So I did have a lot of people like that this year, which I was really surprised about. I don't think I've had as many rodent sales any other year.
Yeah. So you think about the people that only have, you know, 5 or less snakes. Like, it doesn't make much sense for them to drop $400 or $500 on a rodent order.
Yeah.
And if you go to PetSmart, you're gonna get reamed anyways. Like, I painfully paid like $40 for like 10 mice or something, 12 mice a couple weeks ago, because I didn't have any. I breed my own mice, but I was out at the time, and so I was like, I got to get something. So I very, very hesitantly, you know, went to PetSmart and forked over my machine. It hurt.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever go down that road again if I don't have to.
Yeah, I stocked the freezer. We don't have any live breeders. I'm allergic to mice. I'm allergic to rats. I'm allergic to happiness and aspen, and I gotta wear gloves.
Same.
I'm allergic to aspen, so like I gotta just freezer full of frozen stuff. And if you don't eat frozen thawed, I'm gonna find out a way to make that happen. If not,
that's same here. Same here.
I had a pair of albino pine snakes, albino Florida pines, and the female never once took frozen thawed for me. I had to feed it live its whole life, and I sent them to Jake. And then Jake immediately messaged me and told me they were eating frozen thawed. It pissed me off. I want to strangle his tiny little neck. But yeah, okay. So we know what started you in this. We know how long you've been doing this. What led Sarah into 2 beautiful books and YouTube? Something got you there. What drove you to do that?
Well, actually, the YouTube started as sort of a supplement to my Facebook page. And I actually am the admin of the Corn Snake Morph ID help group on Facebook. We have other admins, so I don't want to take away from their contribution, because they do quite a lot. But I'm one of the more known admins in there, and I would get people messaging me constantly asking me morph questions. They would post in the group sometimes, but they'd be like, I didn't really feel like this was appropriate for the group. And I ended up just typing the same thing over and over again. And finally I was like, I'm just going to make a video about this. So I think mask was one of the first like morph videos that I made, because I remember like everybody wanted to know everything about mask for some reason. And so I just decided to make a video going over everything we knew. And anytime that somebody asked me about it, I would link them to the video, because I was tired of retyping the same thing over and over again. And then people thought that was awesome. And then they wanted a different video for a different morph. And so then it just compiled and went on, it's like the YouTube channel just like kept going with all these morph deep dive things. And I've really enjoyed doing it. And someone said, you know a lot about corn. Yeah. And I'm glad. I'm so glad that it helps people, because like, that's all I've ever really wanted to do is like help educate people. That's why I got into the Morph ID group in the first place, was to help people with morphs, because I guess that's something I'm good at. Like, I'm not good at much, but that is something that I am pretty good at. And so the YouTube channel was what started that. And then someone said, you seem to know a lot, you should write a book. And I kind of shrugged it off at first, and then I had 2 or 3 and 5 and 12 and 20 people tell me that I should write a book. And so I already had all these scripts for these videos. And so I pretty much put them together, refined them, had some people go over them to make sure that they weren't like, like a ton of incorrect information, and printed them. And then I thought, like, nobody's going to buy this, right? And I have a lot of book sales now, like really kind of surprising. And then once people, got all of the like base morph things down, because the first book is just the history of the base mutations. There's about 30 base mutations in corn snakes, and but I didn't go over like combinations. I didn't go selectively bred stuff, and people wanted selectively bred information. And so the second book is all about the selectively bred types of snakes, like the reverse oketees and like pinstripe motleys instead of just like amels and motleys, something a little bit more specialized. So that's what. And then people now, they want an update like whenever there's things to update on, and so that's a thing that I've taken on now, I guess. Chuck Pritzel had done books like that, but better than mine, like 1,000 times better than mine years ago, but he stopped in the same year that I started breeding. I think his last one was in 2011. So there's a lot of stuff that's just not in this book anymore. Like there's no palmetto. I don't think there's any tessera. They didn't have like peach figured out. There's a lot of stuff they didn't have figured out, and so obviously he did not write books on those things. He's done. He's out of the hobby as far as I know, or at least done writing books. And so I guess I was just like, I guess I'm going to fill the void. And so that's where I'm at. I'm filling the morph void.
Well, it's helped a lot, because I bred corns with my dad back in like 2000, 2004, in that time frame. And I'd had some off and on throughout the years, up until the last probably year or two, and I've gotten heavily back into them. So like showing back up after that span of time, a lot had changed. So the deep dives on YouTube seriously helped in terms of understanding sort of what's what and how things work in conjunction with other morphs and stuff. And then the books, helped a lot as well. So
I'm so glad, honestly.
It's so much easier to sort of digest all that information. And I was just talking the other day about making flashcards or something just to keep up with the combos and stuff, because it's just like it's
wild.
It's exploded since then. It's just so hard to keep up with everything now. And I've never been much of a morph guy to begin with, so I was already like kind of out of the loop as far as basic genetics and stuff anyways. So it's been having to relearn a lot. It's helped a lot.
I have a term that I've used before in podcasts about our generation. Now, Sarah, I don't know how old you are, and you don't need to tell us.
I'm 30. I'll be 31 in like 2 weeks.
Okay, well, perfect. I was gonna say late 20s, mid 30s. I'm 37. I'm an old man. Anybody in this generation, and I like to talk about this with Bill from the Lizard Brain Radio. We're the in-betweeners. So we grew up maybe not having internet, not having these books on our shelves, maybe not having direct access to information, but yet we're cultivating this experience for these people that will have this right at their fingertips, the digital age. Because the people that are and I'm not gonna define an age because I don't necessarily think it's an age thing. It's maybe a generational mentality.
Yeah.
You've got this group of guys. None of them need to be named because they've spent their whole life putting their name on things, which is a very specific thing that's special about our generation. We don't put our name on anything. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
I was just like, why do you care? Why do you need my name on that?
Why does this need to be the Sarah line snow, right? Why
Right.
can't we
Yeah.
just
I'm
call
just
it
like,
what it is to say this is
yeah.
a halo? This is, and we'll get into those here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're as the in-betweeners, we're the translators of this beautiful amount of knowledge that these people have poured their lives into, and they wrote it down. And do you think that some 16, 14-year-old person that's going to be getting into this hobby is going to just hop online and find a forum from 1998?
Yeah.
Right. No. No.
We're the in between generation. We're the in betweeners, right? We don't get to enjoy the newness of this hobby, right? We didn't get to do that. We weren't there. But we also don't get to enjoy the immediate satisfaction of this hobby,
right?
Because that isn't necessarily here there either. But yet somehow we're pouring our hearts into this. We're making these podcasts. You're doing these YouTube videos. Those YouTube videos are there forever, right? Your books are there, as long as you're willing to put them out in digital format, or which digital format is probably going to be,
it's probably going to be there anyway. Yeah. I mean, they're all digital format. I only printed a very small handful. So somebody out there has it on their laptop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's probably over 100 people who have it
on
their
my
laptop. Yeah.
I have them on my phone.
I was about to say, I've been breeding reptiles for 24 years this year, and I got maybe breeding corn snake,
awesome.
which would be 4 seasons ago. I started breeding. I immediately bought your books because I was like, hey, where's the culmination of knowledge? And you are a herald of the in-betweeners because you've funneled all of this. And it's overwhelming. I know it's overwhelming because
it can be for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, because you did it, and it's a blessing in this hobby that people like you, Justin, I talk about him all the time, making these podcasts. These podcasts don't go away. In 50 years, these podcasts exist. Sarah, you did a podcast with Joe Phelan, I think maybe 4 years ago.
I've done 2. I've done 2 with him.
Many years ago. Donovan Winterberg. One of his shirts.
I did one with him too. Yeah.
These things exist in a sense that maybe not. We have to be honest. Things become outdated, right? Like there is knowledge only moves forward, yet data logged information stays stagnant. Mm-hmm. So we change, we progress, we learn new things, we find out new truths to the lies. There's always things that maybe were obfuscated. So it's really neat to be part of that, and part of one of the reasons I wanted to talk about why you ended up moving into that is I think it's quite amazing that what you're doing is data logging this information for the future, right?
Yeah.
So when my daughter decides to get on YouTube and look up corn snake videos, we're breeding them together. Maybe that's these avenues exist. How many morph explanation videos exist? None, right? It just doesn't
exist. Crazy that there's not. I had no idea that it didn't exist. I thought, why do I have to make these videos that are repeating things that are repeated in 1,000 different places? Yeah. But that's if you Google like corn snake morphs, like my videos are the only ones that come up, and like I'm happy about that. Yeah. But also like so shocked. Shocked that there wasn't.
No one wanted to put in that's a lot of work, especially when you compartmentalize it like you have with all the different groups and stuff. It's like I can't think of really anybody off the top of my head that would be willing to take the time to put together. And I mean, they're not short videos either, so it's not like it's 5 minutes of like, this is an email, this is why it's an email. Cool, see you later. It's like they are like they're deep dives, and they're called that for a reason. I think it's like that's a pretty big undertaking. That I think a lot of people probably aren't willing to commit the time to, or maybe they just don't even have the resources for it.
Yeah. There's something we need to understand in this little in-betweener generation, and maybe it's reptile specific, and maybe it's not. Maybe this is just life specific. Tribal knowledge becomes useless to people that are not in your tribe.
Mhm.
So find a way to spread that to others. It's intoxicating. It's wonderful. It's just it's a damn good thing. It's a good thing for again, you guys, and maybe I can even be a part of that as well. Now, I don't know. That's that positivity coming out. A little toxic positivity for y'all today.
Have it. I'll take it. I need some positivity for sure.
I'll be a little corn snake Oprah right now.
Winter,
you get a snake, and you get a snake.
Donovan's show, when I noticed that it wasn't around anymore, and I mean, this was obviously, it hasn't been around for a while, but just like with GTP Keeper Radio, like I do the ContraCast, there was a void there. Like there wasn't any GTP Keeper Radio. They would release like 2 episodes a year maybe. And so I was like, I have the equipment, I have the ability to fill that void. And it was sort of the same with this, where it's like clearly there's not a corn specific show around anymore. I have the equipment, I have the ability, so that's why we started this.
And that's awesome. I'm excited about this. Honestly, I'm always down for a corn snake podcast.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of it honestly was also me. Like I did it a little selfishly because it's like, okay, I need to catch up on a lot of this stuff. What better way than to record the conversations with people that are clearly much more knowledgeable in it than I am.
For sure.
It helps. It's information that I can bring to the world, and then I'm also getting to ask the questions and things that I've been curious about myself, and Chris helps out a ton with that because Chris is way more in the loop as far as morphs and stuff than I am, so it's worked out.
Yeah, I'm really glad.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Go ahead, Justin.
You go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so we were talking about your breeding plans this year. Was there, in those pairings, and we talked about them real quick, is there any, what are the specific projects? Not necessarily these are the pairings that I did last year, these are the pairings I did the year before, but what are in that house of animals that are breeding? I think you said you had 5 or 6 pairs going. What are the projects? Those ones that this is my 5-year, my 3-year, like, kind of like that. Could you tell us a little bit?
Sure. I don't have like a year span, but I do have like 3 main projects and then 1 or 2 sort of like little side projects. So the main project obviously is the Green Blotch and Halo. That's an ongoing thing. I hope to always have that in my collection. All of my Halos, almost all of them, stem from my original Halo male. He was the sire of pretty much all of my Halo stuff, and so I always want to keep his line going. He unfortunately passed away. I believe last year he had some cancerous tumors that they thought they'd removed, but didn't, and unfortunately he passed away from that. So happy to have some of his offspring that thankfully do not have any of his problems. I'm just like, I was so scared that it was going to pass on, but it seems like we're going to be good. So there's that, and I do have a little tiny chunk of the Golden Project.
Yeah.
I had a very large chunk, in fact, the largest chunk for about a year, but I just couldn't get them to like breed or be interested in breeding. And I was also in a very bad financial situation and ended up selling off most of them except for 1 pair that I was almost 100% sure did produce a golden, but they haven't produced any since then. And so I am breeding a mother to a son in hopes that something comes of that. And let's see. The other project is my Flare project. That was the progeny of my original corn snake that I raised from a hatchling. He was a normal, kind of, except he was proven to probably be a mask because, like, all of his offspring, like, half of all of his offspring were masks, even though he didn't look like it. And that's the only explanation I have, is that he was just really low expression. But he also was het for diffused, charcoal, anery, motley, like pretty much everything but the kitchen sink. And so I have a huge variety of babies from him. I have a couple of charcoal sun-kissed from him. I have some blood reds from him. I have some like granites and just a bunch of stuff from him. So I have the Flare project, the Golden project, and the Halo project. Those are the 3 main ones. And then I always have to have an Ultramel Okatee in my collection and use that. Like I love Ultramel. That is my favorite morph.
So
I
good.
love it so much. And I love breeding ultramels to amels because you get that variety. I've always bred for variety. That's my favorite thing. I have never been much of a line breeder. I know a lot of people, they want to do like Miamis or they want to do Okeetees or they want like, they have like a line that they want. But I've never cared about lines. I've never really cared too much about like refining certain things. Like I want to refine my halos. I think that's my one big project. And I think that I have like the epitome of the best halo I'll ever produce. Right now, I hatched him in 2020, bred him this year. He was a little clumsy about it, but he got the job done with my Ultramel Okatee female. So I'm really hoping, and she's had anery, so really hoping to get some nice like Halo Snow Okatees from that pair as well. That's pretty much it. Like I don't have too many other like big projects. I have a pair of spotted pythons that I'm growing up. I got them I think the year before last, and they're doing good. They just are spotted pythons. I love spotted pythons because they mind their business. They don't give me any trouble with feeding. They're super sweet. You get them out and you can just hold them. They don't care. You know, they don't move around near as much as corn snakes. They're more mobile than a ball python, which is one reason I like them, but they're not like so mobile that they might be intimidating to someone who is a little apprehensive about snakes. So anytime someone who is like, I've never held a snake before, can you get one out and I'll just touch it? I always go for the spotted pythons because they just are great snakes. They mind their business, very sweet, eat everything that you put in front of them except for your hand, which is something I love about them. I've been bitten by way more corn snakes than spotted pythons. They are smarter or something. I don't know. But regardless, so I'm excited to breed those when the time comes. But that's it. Like those are my three main projects. Plus the Ultramel is kind of just like a thing that I like to have.
Yeah. So there's a chance somewhere in there of a what I like to call snow tremels, but Ultramel anery in that Halo project. Then.
Yep.
Oh, that's gonna be
great. It sounds like it would be, doesn't it? I tried that. Guess what happens? Nothing.
Oh.
Because melanin masks halo. So anything that has melanin, except for maybe the exception of sun-kissed, I've seen, because the way that the color sort of sits on a sun-kissed, it's not quite normal. And so a little bit of that halo yellow peeks out from around the saddle borders when it's there on a sun-kissed. But otherwise, it has to pretty much be an amelanistic type to see the halo.
Interesting.
I have seen I had some Halo Ultramel aneries, or at least one, that when it was a baby, when I shined a light on it a certain way, you could see the halo yellow kind of underneath that melanin. But as soon as she started getting older and that melanin came in a little thicker, you couldn't see that anymore. So it's like I knew that she was, but you couldn't see it. So as cool as it sounds, and as much as I would love to have like a gray and yellow like pattern snake like the Halo, it just like I have not found a way to make that happen yet. And maybe that's a project that I can maybe start working on with this. We'll see.
Because that pattern that has the melanin in it, the saddle.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah, and it's especially like you'll see with green blotch being different from Halo in a way. So I have seen some snakes with melanin that are green blotched, especially in sun-kissed. It's really easy to see again. So sun-kissed aneries, very easy to tell that they're green blotched. And even a lot of like ghosts that are green blotched, you can tell. But if it's pretty much anything else, you're not going to be able to tell. And the halo only shows up in the borders, which is of course where the melanin usually sits. The darkest part of the melanin on the top of the snake is in the borders, and that's where halo is. So it's hard to see halo when those borders have melanin in them.
So yeah, those borders that have, I guess, erythrin, xanthophore, erythrin, and then melanin.
Mm-hmm.
By putting the melanin in there, it covers the xanthophore, which is
basically, yeah.
That is, I never really thought about it like that, because you immediately say you're putting an Ultramel to it. I'm like, awesome, you're going to make snow tremels, which are, in my opinion, just gorgeous snakes.
I love them; they're great.
And what's kind of interesting on the Ultramel anery snow tremels, you'll still get a lot of throat yellow, a lot of that kind of nuctal yellow on their head, and then a lot down the throat, and even in the nose.
Yep.
Expect look at the Tequila Sunrise line, right?
Yeah. They say, though, that
yeah.
that's a keratin yellow instead of a xanthophore yellow. So carotenoid yellow, they say, mostly comes from the food. And I don't disagree. I do think it has more to do, not with the food itself, but with the way that the snake's body processes the food and how that food is then used to make pigment or not. Now, I'm not a scientist, so like, you know, don't, but like, I can only imagine, like, because I have fed, you know, you can have two ghosts from two different lines and feed them the exact same food from the exact same place for the exact same amount of time. One of them can get like bright yellow and the other one will not. So it has to do with the way that the snake's body processes the food that you're feeding them. If it comes from the food, which that's what the general consensus is that that carotenoid yellow comes from the food. So that is what I believe is like on the sides and the neck and the cheeks, whereas the xanthophore is what you're going to see in most of the rest of the body.
Interesting. That's really interesting. It's hard. That's a lot to immediately start processing.
Sorry, that's my brain.
No, good.
How did you end up from the time you got into corns until sort of now? Like, what was sort of the evolution as far as whittling down what you wanted to focus on? Because, you know, I talk to Chris about it all the time. It's like, you know, I come back to corns and there's just so many options now. It's hard to really nail down. I love honey stuff. You know, there's too much.
There is a lot.
It's so hard to say. I'm going to force myself to only focus on X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So how did, over time, was there any particular sort of
so it started mostly with just the corn snakes that I happened to have in the beginning. So the flare line, he was my very first corn snake that I raised from a baby, and I was very attached to him. He was pretty old when he passed away. So like he had lived a long and happy life. And so I'm not like, I don't know. I'm still very sentimental about him, and I miss him so much. He was one of my favorite snakes. So like having him and having that bond to him, just like my own emotional bond to him, I always wanted to have some of his babies. And when I was breeding him, like the first time I bred him, it was to a snow. He gave me aneries. I was like, cool, he's het anery. I bred him to an anery motley. He gave motleys. Cool, he's het motley. Bred him to a granite, and then got charcoals and diffused, thinking I was just going to get aneries. And so that was pretty crazy. And then one time I bred him to his daughter, and then I got all these sun-kissed. And so found out he's got all this stuff going on. And so like that project has like the most variety in it of anything. And again, I've always loved breeding for variety. So just taking some of his babies and just like figuring out who's had what and breeding them all together. And I've purchased a lot for outcrossing this last year. So next year, all of that's going to be outcrossed for new blood. But it was just like my attachment to him is kind of what kept me with his line. And with the Halo and Grain Blotch, my original Halo snow came from my very first clutch of corn snakes that hatched. There were only 2 snows in the clutch. Sold one of them, kept the other one. And the reason I kept it was because he was nicer than the other one. I called them Prince and Popper. Prince was the nice one that I kept. Popper was the one that I didn't like because he was mean. And then the owners of Popper came back and brought him with them to just like visit and buy rodents and stuff. And I noticed that mine was very, very yellow in the borders, and theirs had absolutely no yellow in the borders. So I started posting pictures of him online, and someone reached out and said, hey, you might want to do some trials on that, because that could be something really cool. And I remember it was Steve Rylance who I sent pictures to and said, what do you think of him? And he said, it looks like he's got halos. He's a halo corn snake. So Steve Rylance is the one that I credit for coming up with the name, because it really does look like they've got little halos around their borders there, or on the borders. So that was another thing that was like what kept me in that project. And as far as golden goes, it really just sort of fell in my lap. A friend of mine had a big chunk of the project. She had bought a bunch of normals that were like 50% possibly hat golden from Joe Pierce, and she just could not keep them all. And that's the same reason that I ended up getting rid of them, was because I thought that I could keep them all, and I could not keep them all. It was just so many. I ended up breeding two females gave me eggs, and like I said, one of them I thought might have given me a couple of golden offspring, and golden has always had issues. If you look back at the past, I'm not going to go into details unless you really want me to, but like it's just had trouble getting off the ground because the hatchlings weren't healthy, or they didn't come out of the egg at all. They would, just like be dead in egg, or the, females didn't want to breed, or there would be fertility issues. Like there's been issues from day one with golden. Yeah, it's been a long, rough road. And when I was then also having issues with females not wanting to breed, I decided that I didn't want any of the project except for what I knew was going to breed. So those are the ones that I have now, and I just want that little piece of that pie because it's something that I'm passionate about, and I really want this mutation to continue in the hobby, especially because we know it's there and we know that we have the potential for it. We just have to pursue it.
It exists. It's proven, right? Like
yes.
it's a thing,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's for sure a thing. But for some reason, a lot of the bigger names were like, I'm not going to mess with that because why would I just want something that looks like a caramel corn snake? And it's very interesting to me when something isn't worth anything until they can make money off of it. It's like, oh, that's useless. But if you sell it to me, then I'm going to sell it for like 10 times the price. And so that is interesting. But regardless, I still have my like little slice of that project, and I just want to keep going with it. And even if they don't give me the goldens, they still give me very beautiful motleys and caramels and caramel motleys. And I just really
a good looking snake.
Love caramel motleys. That was actually the first female that I ever bred. Well, I accidentally bred, I guess I should say. The matriarch of the Halo line was a caramel motley. I had it for snow. So I love like any kind of caramel motley, especially gold dust motleys. I think are gorgeous. And then with Ultramel, it's just because I love the variety. Like I love the variety you can get with Ultramel, and I love the way they look. I've always loved that sort of yellow orange. It's not a normal. You can tell it's not a normal, but it still has the same colors as a normal. I don't know how to describe it, but always loved those. And the spotted pythons were similar. Like they were just something that I tried out years ago. Wasn't sure if I was really into them, but then decided that I liked them enough to continue with them. So I just have a pair now. Yeah. I think that's it. I do have a couple of other like stragglers that I will eventually breed into the flare line, probably. Just like all those really like those weird anery like straggler things that I have going on. That was all intended to go into the flare project as new blood, and so that will probably happen next year.
I would love to talk a little more on the golden line. Where I believe that popped up in caramel, right?
No.
Okay.
That was wild caught.
Where was it wild caught from?
I believe it was in South Carolina.
Yeah.
It was one of the Carolinas, but I think it was South Carolina.
I would venture to say
out of South Carolina.
Say what?
Go ahead, Justin. You first.
I said all the good stuff comes out of South Carolina.
Pretty much.
Come on now.
Corn mecca, man.
South Carolina's pretty okay for corn snakes, and corn snakes specifically.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
So in that golden line, and this is just me thinking about there's also a locality element to all of these lines, right? We look at diffuse; they come from Keys lineage animals, and they maybe are not as easy to start feeding because they want a nose. I wonder, and this would just be me thinking out loud, and this may have already been thought about, is that golden line wanting to brumate for longer, wants to start hitting those 55 degrees for 4 months, like I do for my alternas or my black pines. There's an element to maybe they don't want to breed because they're not ovulating. Maybe they're not ovulating because of the lineage of those animals. Every little factor in these things. Because when I brumate corns, I don't brumate them like I do my king snakes.
Right.
And I definitely see certain lineages, some of Miami stuff, some of my diffuse stuff, immediately breeds. I mean, I could probably breed them in the middle of July, right?
Yeah.
And so now, hearing you talk about that and knowing they're from what would be kind of considered a more temperate climate, more northern climate. South of the Mason-Dixon line, I get that, but you would want to say what if maybe there's there's tricks and things we could still try to help push that, and maybe those females just need to brumate a little longer. Maybe those males aren't producing good sperm because they're not brumating long enough.
Could
And
be.
that there's little ticks in there that these animals still came from somewhere, right?
Well, and they're all very closely related to wild caught because the matriarch was a wild caught female, and then it was her son that was the father of all of my possible hets. So their grandma was wild caught, and so and their grandpa. Well, no, I guess that's not true. Maybe it is. Yeah, I'm trying to remember like the family tree. So they had the wild caught female and they caught a male in the same area, bred the two of them together, and I had one of those babies. And I figured out which one it was because I looked at the patterns of all the baby snakes from the pictures and the male that I had that was a het. And I figured out which one it was. So he's old, like he's super old, but he is still breeding for his new owner. They have produced actual visual golden. So I mean, at the very least, the gene mutation itself is preserved and being reproduced. But I just kept my little pair that I really enjoy. The reason that I get caramel motleys out of mine is because it was a test breeding between the het golden and caramel to see if they were the same mutation. And so they were sort of like unwanted after that. After it was found out they were different mutations, it's like, we don't want to mix caramel and golden. So like everybody was just pawning these off to other people because they didn't want to deal with the caramel and the golden at the same time. I, however, did not care. I just wanted to do what I could do, and that's what I'm doing. You might be onto something though.
Those little things exist in this. Like I said, they exist in this hobby, and maybe we don't necessarily think about it. Oh, it's a corn snake, right?
Right.
But you start working with some of these North Carolina South Mountain corns. I've got a pair from Chris Montrose. They have to brumate a lot longer, and they're small snakes. They're 3 foot max. They're little tiny montane corns, and so there's little idiosyncrasies to each of these morphs, and I think a lot of that stuff may actually be genetically inherited.
For sure.
Might be something to investigate, and would love to hear in the future if maybe that is a thing. You get a lot of these I say big breeders. We're not big breeders, but there are other people that may work with that morph and just don't even consider that. I've got 300 pairs going this year. I don't know why these snakes don't breed. It's a dead project. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe you need to put a little bit more complexity into it and see what happens.
Yeah, and I hope that that's all it is, because I do have a het golden male, a known het golden, but he was a young 2020 that I got from Joe Pierce, and he was not ready to breed this year, unfortunately. Next year, hopefully. He's such an annoying little picky eater, but again, it could be because his grandma was the same snake, so like, you just don't know what different snakes are going to need as an individual. And I found out that this boy really likes quail, and that's fine with me. I have quail. I can get quail, and he'll just eat it. But as far as mice, no interest. Rats, no interest. But he doesn't mind quail. So that's what we're sticking with right now. And I'm like, it can be annoying because it's like, we don't want snakes that are picky, but like, like you said, because they're from, they're more wild, especially these ones that are more closely related to the wild, they have their diet that their ancestors, very near ancestors, were used to. And we've been trying to feed them something completely different. We're trying to take something straight from the wild and expect it to act like it's always been in captivity. It's like if we took a wolf from the wild and expected that wolf's like grandchildren to just like not have any instincts, and that's not how that works. You have to accommodate to the animal as well.
We can corn snakes are not different than a lot of other North American colubrids. They have a massive range, right? If we look at the Guttatus complex, I say it all the times, the Pine Barrens down to where I'm at here in South Texas, we have Guttatus complex animals all the way over to West Texas, all the way back up into Colorado, right? We look at that complex and we just say, oh, they're just all the same. We made them at 55 to 60, hell, you don't even need to brumate them. You do it for a couple months. They're going to breed on
Yeah.
their own. A wind comes by. Well, you know what? Maybe that is true of the inherent animals that we've been breeding since 1972.
Yeah.
I get that. Maybe from 1930s when corn snakes were bred in small private collections at colleges and stuff like that. I think Sarah, would you even? You may know this. Do you know the first captive breeding of corn snakes?
No, I do know what the first like mutation that was proven, but I don't know like what the first actual breeding was.
I believe, and I was hoping you were going to know. Maybe that's something that we need to investigate and find out. I believe it was in the early 1920s in a zoo, because
that sounds about right. Like it sounds like that's what would happen. But
it's probably in that Dragon Traders book that I have. I'll have to look.
Right? Yeah. It's going to be something from Florida, year-round breeding. They had 2 in the same cage. They got eggs. You know, something like that. But you know, we spend so much time simplifying these animals because they're easy going. They're great first pets. But what if we look at them a little more constructively and say, okay, all right, well, let's start putting this akin to, you know, king snakes and some of these milk snakes and stuff that they don't want to eat. Right now, we've got to start scenting foods with maybe more odd things than just a nose or boiled cookies, and then maybe we start changing brumation times. Maybe we start changing light cycles. Maybe they breed. South Carolina, it is temperate. We immediately say South Carolina when we think about the Okatee lineage stuff. Maybe it's something like that. So that's awesome. I'm so glad that somebody like you is working with that lineage of animals. Just so our listeners know, what does a golden corn snake look like? A stock corn snake with golden.
Can you repeat that? You were cutting out just a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just a regular, everyday wild-caught corn snake that has the golden morph. What would that look like?
They look a little bit like caramels as an adult, but a little bit more shiny. So if you it's really hard to describe, but they have this sort of reflection to their scales that we don't see in a lot of the captive bred corn snakes. And so it really looks like, at least the photos that you see online of the original female that was caught, she just looks like she is coated in a layer of gold. Like she really does, with just like, you can just see her black pattern. It looks like it looked like a prank, to be honest. Like you look at it and you don't think it's real, because it literally looks like someone took a corn snake and dipped it in gold and then like drew Okatee lines so that it would look like an Okatee corn snake. Let me see. I see my caramel videos popped up there. Go down. I'm assuming you typed in golden corn snake. I can't really see it.
Golden morph.
Keep going. There's another one of my logos, or not logos, but like videos.
Hey, huge shout out to
see,
Sarah's
this is
Snake Shop.
So like Google sucks. Hey, there's another one of my videos.
Google
I'm
doesn't
having a great time.
Girl. If you're getting promoted, let's go. You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. Look up. I know it's on kingsnake.com. So, if you type in golden corn snake and then
while you guys look at this, I've got to step aside for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Sure. Just type in golden corn snake without the word morph after it. I don't know I can't read what's up there because it's so tiny on my screen. But just golden corn snake and see what pops up there. Hey, I see another one of my snakes. That's one I just sold the other day. Okay, there they are. So those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 photos are all of the original female golden, I believe. And none of those are my photos, by the way. In case anyone's wondering, I've never actually held a visual golden in my hands that I was sure was a golden. I think that I hatched 1 or 2 in a clutch, but I was never able to prove them out. So when I look at that, especially that second photo, to me that literally looks like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it looks
because it's
bronzed.
Yeah, it looks like someone took a corn snake and just like coated it in a layer of gold. I hate the name golden, but I think it suits it at the very least. So yeah, kind of looks like a really shiny caramel corn snake that's a little bit darker than just your average caramel. Most caramels have a bit more of a bright color to them, but these are more of like a deep gold. And when they're babies, they look more like aneries. Sometimes, caramels will look like an anery a little bit when they hatch, but like I can look at a baby caramel and be like, yep, that's a caramel. But the goldens, you look at them and as babies, they supposedly look like aneries instead of like caramels.
Huh. So it blows out the red. It
Yep, red doesn't exist, and it seems, I don't know. It does very similar things as caramel though, so I think it is as similar to caramel as charcoal is to anery type A.
Okay. So it falls on that spectrum of erythrin deleted and okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an example of a golden.
That is a golden. That is the original wild caught female.
It's a pretty snake.
Yeah. And I was just saying, it looks like a prank. It looks like somebody photoshopped gold onto a corn snake. But
that's old man keeper me says, man, that looks like a high yellow caramel. You know what I mean?
It kind of does though.
That's wow. That is really neat. Even the tail, I like the little sunspots going down the back of the tail. It's really
and that pattern continues in her lineage. Her son that I got had those, and even some of the grandkids and great grandkids of hers have those cool little spots like that. I don't think that's necessarily an indicator of golden, but it is really cool to see how well that specific thing passes on.
So
that's really neat.
This says Northeast North Carolina.
There you go. Yep. Couldn't remember if it was north or south.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. I'm on King Snake. I'm not sharing it because I'm afraid the King Snake got hacked long ago, and it was pretty explicit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a...
It was pretty funny.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that cybersecurity, got to keep up with it, man.
Yeah,
They'll get you.
I mean, their website's so old, it's probably not that hard to hack, I'd imagine. But
yeah, that's another. I worry about that with the forums too, because those old forums, if somebody got into them, like, who knows the damage that could be done? Because like that's where I get most of my information is the cornsnakes.com forum, and like. I don't ever want people to think that I'm just like plagiarizing and copying and pasting, but that's where the history is. Like, and I'm going to quote someone and not paraphrase whenever possible. Because like, that's their experience. They put that out there for a reason. So like,
you just said something there and it kind of like triggers me a little bit. History is literally, it's about copying and to some extent, I guess some plagiarism exists, if we're going to go word for word. How is somebody that doesn't even know what a forum is gonna know something that was wrote in 1997 by at that time I'm just gonna throw out a number, 72-year-old person that it like I said, you're translating and there has to be some level of give and take on that. Of course, we all have to deal with that. But when somebody asks me how to take care of a gargoyle gecko, which I've kept them for 15 years or so.
Yeah.
My experiences are plagiarized from somebody else, right? Like I didn't decide how to take care of these animals through experience. I knew how to take care of them because it had already been done. Reptiles Magazine had already explained to me how to keep, breed, feed, and just have things changed, have things evolved. Damn yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
But it's part of the. You don't get evolution. You don't get progression without examining past literature or experiences or verbiage or like I said, tribal knowledge does not exist outside of a tribe. Right. So if you want to know about, anyways, like I said, I'll pontificate on this all night long. I will get deep in. Okay, I'm gonna. We've been talking about the golden. I'm gonna ask you some questions about your Halo project.
Okay.
And this is a personal question, probably. is there any relation to Halo to green blotch? We've been talking
Yeah.
about green blotch snows, and we've been talking about Halo snows, and this is kind of, you find a lot of this in the snow anery complex. Is there a relation to the two?
From my breeding trials, and this has been 12 years of breeding. They are, I believe, the same mutation. They are a mutation for sure, and that is either either dominant or incomplete dominant. So my initial thought was maybe this is recessive. Did like 5 or 6 different breeding trials with different pairs, some that had produced goldens or not goldens, halos, found out it's not recessive. It's definitely either dominant or incomplete dominant, and green blotch is in there. So my belief at this current time, with the information that I have, is that it is incomplete dominant, with halo being the heterozygous form and green blotch being the homozygous form. So essentially, sort of like I don't know how much genetics y'all understand, but if you have a green blotch and you breed it to a normal snow with no yellow in the borders, you'll get all halos. And that's how, if you breed like an A male to an ultra, you get all ultra males. Similar concept. And so if you breed 2 halos together, you'll have a chance of getting both green blotched, normal snows, and then also halos as well. And I have done that breeding many times over, and that is always what I end up with. I always end up with about 25% normal snows, about 25% green blotch, and then about 50% halos. So the only wrench that was thrown into it was in 2020, I bred a green blotch to a completely normal, no yellow snow. And yes, all of the snows were halo, but one of the females that I held back looks kind of like a green blotched. So I can't tell yet. All of her colors haven't quite come in yet. She still has room to grow. So I'm like, if she is definitely a green blotched, then I have to rethink this whole thing, and it's probably just dominant, and the two of them are just variations of each other, because corn snakes can vary. You have everything from a pinstripe motley to a hurricane motley, so motleys obviously vary, and so it could be that green blotched is just a dominant mutation that varies in so much as it either can go through the entire saddle, including the borders, or just be spread out to only the borders. So it's either one or the other. The thing is, I've never seen anything in between the two. I feel like it's not a variation, because you don't have something that might, kind of look green blotched, but not be, it's like, it's either green blotched or it's halo. So it is my current belief.
There's never a median.
Right. It's not, there's nothing really in between. So it's my belief at this current time that it is incomplete dominant, with green blotched being the homozygous version, the super version of the mutation, and then halo being the heterozygous version of the mutation.
Interesting. So last episode we had Dr. Travis Wyman on here, and we were talking about specific genetics and how certain things can be maybe a little bit more complex than we thought. I wonder, he was talking about maybe instead of it being one pair of and God, I'm definitely not a scientist.
Either.
One pair of genes. Looking at Mendelian genetics, we look at Mendelian genetics as the simple 4-item Punnett square, and he said it could be at maximum, 30s, 40s of different. What if it's one of these situations where we're breeding these snakes? Sarah, you, me, Justin couldn't have hundreds of animals that were just sitting there breeding back together, and it may be one of these situations where it's more complex than maybe it takes 2 dominant genes, 6 recessive genes to really express that phenotype. And goodness, what again, we're talking about the lineage of these animals being a little bit more complex. Maybe we can get into a situation where even the genetics of these animals are more complex than we're thinking right on the surface.
Right. And especially with the lines that I've been working with, there is that yellow jacket mutation that floats around in caramel lines that often goes unnoticed. And so maybe, possibly, all of these green blotch that I'm getting are halo plus yellow jacket. Or, and that's not something that I've tried to prove or disprove, because that has not been something that I've put into the cards. Does that make sense? It's not something that I've known was really in the cards. And I don't know for sure if because I have two actual lines of halos that were completely unrelated from each other, but both of them had a caramel in their lineage. One of them had a caramel motley, and then one of them had a gold dust motley. And so it could be that there's some yellow jacket floating around in there somewhere. I don't know. I did prove that both of those two separate halo lines were the same mutation. So it's a mutation, and it's not. A lot of people might think that it's all just caramel, or maybe it's all just yellow jacket. However, we do see these in like very pink and red coral snows as well. So that negates the like it has to be a yellow jacket thing, because we see it in coral snows that have never, as far as we can tell, ever had caramel in the line.
JMG line stuff. Once you start, and once they start compounding it, because I have JMG line stuff, and I have a snow that's definitely green. Like it's unquestionably got green in it.
Yep.
And it's like very distant from that. Well, I say distant from that lineage. I mean, how many generations have we actually had, right?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
And my snakes down here in South Texas, and your snakes, I'm assuming you live in Antarctica. I have no idea.
I mean, it basically is like it's Indiana, so like it can be whatever state it wants, whenever it wants to be.
It's just Indiana could just. I didn't even know that was a state. I'm dumb. But
listen, it's in the Midwest. That's all you need to know. That's it.
But these snakes get transported all over the place, and there's we get this complex idea of lineage and genetics, and we see 200 different morphs, and well, when we really start looking at it with that really that eye of like, okay, so what's really happening here? Now we're getting down to the micro set of it. Well, wait, so there's a chance that your snakes are related to my snakes, which are related to definitely related to Justin's snakes. And there's so much of that could be going on, and yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting and fun to see, and it's exciting, right? Like let's keep going. Let's keep doing it. Let's see what happens.
And I mean, ultimately, like all caramels go back to one baby that hatched, or I guess like one female that had caramel babies. So like, yeah, anything with caramel in it, it's all related. And Buff and Toffee both came out of caramel lines. So who knows? Who knows really what all is related to what? But we know that all caramels are related to each other. All buffs are related to all caramels, and all toffees are related to all of both of those. So like, who knows how far that goes? Mm-hmm. And people could get a toffee and think that maybe it's just an Imrise hybrid or something, because they do have that similar like brown weird look to them, and just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to sell this as a creamsicle or a root beer, and then that turns into who knows what down the line, where you have this dominant mutation that's just being passed around and nobody knows what it is. They just know it looks a little different. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's insane. And I mean, that's the way it is with every morph though. Like every morph stems back to like one snake. Pretty much every morph that we have.
And we can't sit here and think they don't all come from wild caught snakes.
Right.
And what if Sally Sue bought a corn snake at a show, and maybe two corn snakes, raised them up and bred them because she left them together, and she popped out a morph, didn't even know it. That animal goes on to be in another collection, hopefully, and well raised and breeds. And wow, now we have all of these animals that have this phenotype that we, so it's kind of the very interesting thing of this hobby, subsected into corn snakes that we. It's a lot. There's a lot.
It is a lot. Corn snakes are a lot. Yeah.
The corn snakes are a lot. It's almost stressful, right? Like
it is.
For you it is. I'm sure it is. Like
the thing with morphs for me is that it's so second nature to me to see these patterns. And I took statistics in college and got an A without even trying, because I already knew all this stuff about genetics, and it was just like, it's just a thing that I just knew. And I can look at morphs and be like, yeah, that definitely has that mutation in it somewhere, or no, that definitely does not have that mutation in it anywhere. And I'm not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. There's definitely been times when I've missed a mutation, especially like mask, because like it's such a subtle mutation.
Mask
and if it's
is so hard to deal with.
Yeah, if it's not like blatantly obvious, like a lot of times I miss it, and someone will be like, "Hey, what about this?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's there too, I guess." So like, but even though it is work, I'll tell you, like, what the thing that's the most work is actually editing videos. If I could just sit down and like talk, then I'm fine. Obviously, like I'm so long-winded. It is super hard for me to get a video under 20 minutes, like any video.
Yeah.
So, and so the hardest part is editing. Like I can sit down and talk forever, but then like having to sit down and like listen, first of all, listen to my own voice is never a pleasant experience for most people. And then I have to actually chop out anytime that I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying, or I have to go refer to this book, or, I'm dyslexic. So a lot of times words will come out as like words that don't exist, and I have to like start over. So, that's the stressful part for me is, oh shoot, I was gonna have this video out at Friday at 5 p.m. and it is Thursday at 5 p.m. and I haven't even written the script yet. That's the stressful part for me. The snakes themselves and the morphs, I love that. That's what I love to do. So like that's not stress. People are stressful. People can be stressful.
Yes.
But that's and that's one thing that my boss has told me 1,000 times over is your job is easy, people are hard. And that's something I always keep with me with everything that I do. It's the job that I'm doing is easy, but you got to learn how to deal with people. That's the hardest part.
One thing that I need to jump in and say is, as Sarah is here talking about this stressful thing that she's doing, editing videos, putting these up on YouTube. Everybody needs to understand that's listening to this podcast. She is doing this for free.
I am, for the most part. I just got monetized. I have made
regardless,
I have put up almost 300 videos on my channel, and I've made less than $200.
So it's free. It's free.
It's free. It's definitely free for the viewer. Like, free for them.
You've invested a massive part of your life that is stressful, and I totally agree. I know what you're going through with that, and it's you are doing this purely out of the passion for the hobby, and people need to understand that and respect that. Like that's
videos are a labor of love.
It is a labor of love.
There's few things I hate more than editing videos. I do that with all the 5 question segments and stuff. That's like the raw video itself is like 20 minutes, and by the time I'm done with it, it's literally like 10 minutes or less. Like, so much. You'd be amazed at how many like half a second or 1 second and things you end up cutting out. Like you go cross-eyed after a while. I mean, I have Adobe Premiere. Honestly, with the 5 questions things, I just use iMovie because it's so much faster. I love Adobe stuff. The learning curve is very steep, but I'm just like, you know what? It doesn't have to be fancy.
Yeah.
I can burn through a video in iMovie, no problem, and get it done. But,
hey, huge shout out. Just be like me, be dumb, and just don't do any of it. Just show up.
That would be awesome.
Whatever works.
Okay, so what are you interested in as far as future corn snake morphs or projects? Is there anything that you want to get into?
As far as corn snakes go, I would love to get into Terrazzo if there was any kind of demand for it. The problem is there's not. No one cares about Terrazzo. I feel like I'm the only one on the planet that cares. What?
Why do you think that is?
That no one cares about Terrazzo?
Yeah.
It's a less pretty version of Stripe, and you can breed 2 Motleys and get a Stripe, or you can breed a Motley het stripe with a stripe and get Mollies and stripes.
And
but
to some
like
extent,
Terrazzo,
Tessera exists.
Tessera also looks very similar. And yeah, I think that people don't really like the sort of hypomelanistic look to the Terrazzo a lot. Yeah, I don't know. It just never took off, I guess. And I hate that because I really like the look of them, but they are one of those that, it's like I always know that there's going to be this one morph that I'm going to be keeping them until they're yearlings or maybe even 2 years old because people just don't care about them. And I just have been hesitating to jump into that. Maybe one day. And I think I love microscale. If I was going to get into like an expensive mutation, microscale is the one I would go with. I just think that they're so cool and interesting. I like them better than scaleless. So they'd probably be the one that I would get into if I was going with like an expensive morph. There's just not many of them in the U.S. There's only like 2 or 3 people who are breeding them. So
yeah. So that leads into 2 questions. I'm gonna keep on the first one with Terrazzo.
okay,
One thing that I find very interesting on Terrazzo is it has not been put into everything.
true.
There's a lot of things that we have not seen Terrazzo with. In
True.
fact, we've kind of only seen a couple breeders really working with Terrazzo. It's one of the newer morphs. I think it's pretty amazing because it's a recessive mutation. It's it's exceptionally variable, right? Like you
Oh
get
yeah,
a bunch of different phenotypes out of it. It falls off of that motley stripe, which they're allelic, and we've talked about that in previous episodes about how
yeah.
motley and stripe can work together and they can work against each other, I guess, depending on how you're trying to breed them. But would you like to see Terrazzo in any other, base color morphs? So now we have a pattern morph, which Terrazzo is like a hypo and pattern morph, which I think is kind of neat.
Yeah. And
is
it
there
could just be
something
that
you'd like to
keys
see that?
lineage.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Now we're putting in lineage, and maybe we're looking at 37 different alleles
Yeah.
instead of just 2 or 3. Because
Yep.
I think Terrazzo's amazing.
I like it. I like it a
yeah.
lot.
Is there anything you'd like to see Terrazzo in?
I think it would be cool to see like a Terrazzo micro scale, because I mean I do like micro scale, but like, I mean I have seen it with lava, I have seen it with charcoal and anery, I've seen it with amel, I've seen it with caramel. I mean, so I've seen it with like most of like the like color morphs that you're gonna see.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess not. I mean, I've seen it. I love though sun-kissed Terrazzos.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Those ones are pretty cool. And Terrazzo, I recently saw Terrazzo stripes in Motleys and Tesseras. Those are some of the newer combinations that I've seen. And those are really interesting because the Terrazzo Motleys kind of just look like stripes, if I recall correctly. I can't remember. I did a video on Terrazzo.
It's like a broken stripe, yeah.
It's really strange. Yeah. So I really like. I like it in more of the pattern morphs. I don't think I've seen a blood red Terrazzo. If I have, I don't remember it.
So yeah, Terrazzo diffused gets you a very almost like a patternless snake, and I'm kind of in love with them. It's kind of weird. It looks like a diffused that. And you would think, okay, so I have diffused, I blow out my side patterns, I blow out my belly pattern. Now I have Terrazzo, which is going to kind of break down that spinal dorsal pattern. You kind of combine the two, and you get this really, really, some may say ugly. VMS produced some with Castagna, which is going to be a hypotype, if I'm correct.
I actually... I'm on the fence with that. I did not put it in my hypotypes video because after reviewing photos of all the different lines of Castagna, they seem to have enough melanin to not be considered a hypo.
I think Castagna almost falls on that line of like hypererythrism, like almost more red, right? So it's not hypo, it's like reduced black kind of a thing.
It's almost like it just like arranges the colors differently. So like the red is focused more on the upper part of the body, and then it fades more toward the tail.
Yeah, it's weird.
So it's more of, for me, it's more of like a color pattern morph where it like changes where the colors go instead of where the pattern goes. It is a weird morph.
So if you take the Terrazzo and put it in with diffused, you get this. Gosh, it's almost like a pattern. Yeah, I would say patternless corn, but it's a definitely defined pattern on the corn snake. I would love to see that with some color morphs. Start putting that.
For sure.
Put that. I mean, how many diffused snows do we see? None, right? Nobody likes a diffused snow.
Yeah, because it's white.
It's a really
what's it gonna do?
It's one of those things. But if you start working with that, what if you get aneries and charcoals? But you get those little combos. I don't know. There's infinite variables, right?
That's the problem.
Yeah,
That's the frustrating part.
I would love to see I love math, so I would love to see the math broken down, and maybe I need to do it someday on how many variables are there to a phenotype on a corn snake just based on morphs. It's going to be in the probably hundreds of thousands, I believe.
Oh, probably.
It's
just with the
oof.
like, if you take 30 base mutations, and I've done this like statistics, like I could probably get a calculator out and like figure that out, but it is a very large number. It's a very large number.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the neat thing about these snakes, and I always talk about this, is we can keep compounding them, and then you keep compounding them, and then goodness, you find one in your collection. Let's shout out to Silent Hill Reptiles, something like Hannibal, an animal that just stands out, and now you have a whole lineage based on an animal, and we could. This hobby has a lot of room to grow in that, and it's going to be.
That's what I'm always curious about, is what hasn't been done in corns.
Yeah.
Like, we already know that there's a ton done, but like, there may be a number to it. I don't know it, but
we are
surely there's
scratching
a
the
lot.
surface.
Yeah, I was like, surely there's a lot.
Yeah.
And look at Justin, who's finding wild corns and bringing them into morphs, possibly even this year, and just let's see where this lineage takes us. Let's see where. And goodness, one of the most exciting things that I think about breeding wild-caught snakes isn't necessarily my wild-caught to wild-caught, because I have some kind of interesting emery that I'm working with. It's about those F1s. What are those F1s going to do?
Yeah.
Right? Where's that next step? And so that a few people that, especially like ball python people, and I'm not going to talk derogatorily about them. You've got a lot of morphs, you've got a lot of economy in your hobby, but us corn snake people, us people that are passionate about this, you don't even understand the possibilities of, and it's one of those like infinite Doctor Strange complexities in our minds. The second we start thinking about it, we got hands all over us. Dormammu's knocking on our door, and it's I was like BSing with somebody a couple years ago about a combination. I was like, hey, I have like a 1 in 264 chance to produce this, right?
Yeah.
Like, just this crazy wild. And I was like, it's not going to happen this generation. But when I put my F1s together, there's like this small chance where I could get this like 6 gene animal. And then I was like, wow, that almost doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is we could put 6 genes into these animals and they're not going to look like bass bait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have an animal that has 4, 5, 6 genes in it and it doesn't look like a pink, white snake.
Right.
There's so, okay, diffuse blows out the sides, mask blows out the head. Okay, now I've got motley. Now I'm combining my saddles. Okay, now I've got Okati lineage. Well, Okati lineage and motley doesn't really work together, but okay, let's not even think about.
That's another project. I have a gold dust motley that is the closest thing to an Okati motley anyone has ever seen, I think, and so she's going next year. She'll be 3 next year. She's gonna go with my extreme Okati male. We'll see where that goes.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about her.
That brings up a whole other thing. And just, I'm sorry, I'm derailing.
Sorry about that.
I'm just kicking back and listening, man.
So few people spent time perfecting a morph than they did making a morph, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be world first for this. I'm going to be world first for that. Okay, you're world first. Here's your ginormic 57 likes on Facebook. Congratulations.
Right? Good for you.
Which, hey, it's still an achievement, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we love like seeing what new things look like.
Yeah. But what if I worked on my line of anneries and came out with this whole new line and said, hey, look at this, right? And then found out genetically what was going on. It's, man, woo. Like I said, I can't not be excited.
See, the problem is, though, like, I have that little 4 or 5 gene monster from you, Chris, and it's like, hey, when this thing gets older, what the hell am I supposed to do with it?
Well, like, that's the good thing about a snake like that. One, it's a good looking snake, I think, and 2, you can kind of plug it into a bunch of different projects, right? So,
but then I have to keep up with what comes out the other side, and therein lies the problem. It's like, when the lineage on the ad says 10 different hets on both sides, ends up being like a paragraph long explanation of what that snake is.
that's that due diligence. I can't say that word, but that due diligence we do as breeders and say, okay, hey, you know what? You do what you're going to do with this animal, but here's
Yeah.
a lineage of it, and we
Yeah.
know. And yeah, it's. I mean, that
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I mean,
I was recently told by someone that I shouldn't put any possible hets in unless they are 50% or more. And that did not sit right with me because I'm like, I would want to know if there was a possibility of who knows what in the background, even if it's like 3 or 4 generations back, because it still could pop up. And like, if
Yeah.
I know, like, oh, you know what? They mentioned that this had a caramel great grandparent. Let's just see what caramel does. Like, let's just see what happens. And so I love taking advice from people who know more than me and who have been in this hobby longer than me. I do feel like that was a bad piece of advice, though. Because I would want to know everything, and so I want to disclose everything. And when I took that advice for the brief period of time that I took it, people came back to me and said, "Hey, so I bred that snake that I got from you, and I got this." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that was a great grandparent. I probably should have told you." And they're like, "Well, yeah, it would have been nice to know." And I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna disclose everything from here on out.
Yeah.
Like, just because other people don't do things the same way I do. Like, I don't know. I think it also keeps the interest alive. If you buy a snake that's just a normal and they just advertise it as a normal, no known hets, whatever, that's not near as interesting as, hey, this normal had 2 great grandparents that were these like really cool snakes, but we just can't for sure say that they're het for this. That's much more interesting and keeps much more like
Absolutely.
interest in the hobby. And there's so many more possibilities. And I just, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just sort of this, you never know what you're gonna get, and so I would want to know everything.
There's a goodness. I remember talking to Justin about this the first time we ever talked. There's a boutique feeling to if I breed snakes, and maybe I have 10, 15 clutches this year, but I want to promote and sell and produce and push out my animals with this boutique feeling, right? Whereas I'm giving you every bit of knowledge that I have on this animal. Now, I don't necessarily do feeding cards, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people that do that. I think it's a wonderful thing. For me, but lineage, where did these animals come from? Where were the parents produced by? I've got some old my main male, and he's my favorite snake that I have, and I produced a clone of him not last year but the year before, which is great. He's an ultra male motley tessera, which is a really neat combination of stuff because he's very. If you look at him, his name's Mac. He's very monotone and very basic and very orange. It looks like an Everglades rat snake. And he's massive. Homie, I got him in 2015. I want to say 2015, something like that. And he was already an adult, and he was already over 4 feet. And homie will literally breed a water bowl in a heartbeat in the middle of July. I love him. And he's the nice guy. But he was produced by SMR, and as far as I know, he was produced by SMR in 2010 or something like that. But I have his lineage, and I know his hets, and it's neat that all of his little babies, I get to not every bigger breeder, and I will say that SMR is a bigger breeder, or at one point in time was, didn't always keep track of the hets, but I found out he was het entering. Right?
Yeah.
Which is neat. I've gotten to make some ultramel anneries and stuff like that. But yeah, a pos het, if it's even a tiny little, let's the more we push that ideology of lineage, the more important it will become.
I'm really surprised it's not like in chondros. It's everywhere. Like lineage matters, and then like chondro people are the best at keeping track of that stuff. Like we'll keep track of that information going all the way back to like the 70s and 80s.
Absolutely,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so
I usually
the family tree goes way back, and people do that religiously in chondros. And I always wondered, like I was always surprised that wasn't more popular in stuff like horns and balls, where you'd think that stuff would be extra important because you're dealing with so many different moving parts. chondros, we're just talking about like lineage. Like it's not even necessarily, it's not morphs, it's not any of that. It's just like this comes from blue line, tiger stuff, whatever. Like there isn't all these different hets. There's not all this other stuff. With chondros, it's just like this goes all the way back to Trooper Walsh when he first bred chondros in late 70s, mid 70s, whatever. But that's just not, for whatever reason, it's not a thing here. But that is something that I've started to do, like with all the stuff I have from you, Chris. I got pictures of the parents. I put them in a document size thing on Canva and write down the information of what the parents were, and like started the tree thing because I want to do the same thing with that kind of stuff, because it's like it's also neat to be able to go back and track those kinds of things too.
I started doing that too for customers, especially customers who asked. They're like, "Hey, do you know anything?" I was like, "I know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go."
Yes. and you know what? Not every customer is gonna want that, right?
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Some people don't care, but some people are like, "I want to know what the parents and the grandparents and the great grandparents and so I give them all the information I can as far back as I can with photos and like what the snake's name was and when they were hatched and what they, I don't always remember what they ate, because like some of these snakes, like I said, were back in 2011, 2012, and I'm like, probably mice. It's been 10 years, but so yeah. I like doing that, and I like keeping track of that, and that's one reason that I name my snakes. I actually had a conversation with someone the other day, like, do you name all of your animals or not? And I do, partially because like I want to have that connection with them, but another reason is it helps me keep track of clutches. I theme my clutches, so I have the yellow flower clutch, the like color green clutch, I have the like Minecraft clutch, I have the YouTubers clutch. So
that's awesome.
Different clutches that are named after certain things, and I can keep track of who's the parent. So like like I know that Ingot, who is a part of my Minecraft clutch, is going to be the father of my possible head halos this year, and that helps me keep track.
That's awesome.
Other chondro people do that too.
Yeah.
Like there are flagship animals though, just like Hannibal. In chondro, there's animals that you see that in the lineage, and there's already like a notoriety to it almost. It's like you see something that has Mr. Blue is like the famous chondro, and so you see Mr. Blue in a lineage, or like Carolina, or like some of these other ones. It's like that it's legit because you see the lineage itself, and it goes back to him.
That's awesome.
And having the names, and then like people memorize the names of these snakes. Like there's snakes that aren't even around anymore, like chondros that have long passed, but everyone remembers. Diablo and some of these other ones. Like it's like thoroughbreds in a sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it absolutely
for sure.
If you breed, surprised me that no one else adopts that.
If you breed and you're in my house, you get a name. You know what I mean?
Same.
With the exception of Everglades rat snakes. Hey, huge shout out to my Everglades rat snakes. You guys can go fuck yourselves.
That's how I felt about my California Kings. I was like, no, you suck. You are asshole and bitch. Those are your names.
every time I co-have my Everglades. I love them. They're gorgeous. But every time I open that tub, there's a hook in the other hand, and my kid's not allowed to be in the room because they just come flying out. It's a poo-poo show every time. But yeah, there's. And you know what? Not everybody needs to be on. And I will admit, we think that this is important, and we press this is important, and we're reaching a lot of ears. I think Justin told me I think he had 14, 15 million listeners last episode.
Wow.
So it's a lot. But the big box stores, right? Like obviously there's breeders for the big box stores, and there's breeders that just don't care, right? Like I breed these snakes and I make money. And that's fine. They have a place. And those animals get into people's collections, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But if you're getting an animal from me, you get a part of me.
Exactly.
I send you a cup of blood with every order.
Hey, if certain species, it might be.
It might actually,
There's these neat little things that we get to, and that's that boutique feeling, right? I want you to feel like you got an animal from Chris Paint Shop or Sarah Snake Shop or Justice Smith. Like you got a snake from me. And you know what? Let's look at other species. Let's think about Therai, Lampropeltis leonis. Every single serious breeder of variable king snakes will literally be like, this is a bloaty pinner to a vivid MSP that was bred to it, and they will literally go back to like 1970, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
This lineage information, because these animals, I understand why these animals haven't been brought into the hobby since 1984, the Lacey Act. I believe it was 1984. Might be dumb. Who knows?
I
But
don't know.
you can't bring them into the country. But that lineage is so important. There's nothing that's been bred. Okay, well, let's do it with animals from America, right? Let's do it from animals that I wild caught. Maybe I don't need to call them my line, because they're maybe not. Maybe if I work on it for a couple more generations, I can say this is my line of animals. And then I feel like us as in-betweeners don't really want to put our name on anything, right? Like, this isn't the Sarah Mohr line of halos. And we have a difficulty in doing that. And that's because we have so much admiration and respect for these people that have done it before.
Mm-hmm.
But in all actuality, how many young men, young women, young girls out there watching YouTube that are going to sit there with their Halo Snow and say that this snake is from Sarah Mohr, right?
Yeah.
And the only reason that exists in their collection is because they found you. They found you on YouTube, and hell, we just Googled like golden corn snake, and so that's a big deal, anyways. All right, okay. We got some hard hitting questions, Sarah. We're gonna start hitting some hard pressing stuff.
Okay.
You were talking about microscale earlier. What's your what's your personal opinion on scaleless?
I don't care about it. Like, in the best way.
There it is. You heard it here first, everyone.
I think that it is nice, and honestly, I am so grateful for it because of lavender. I actually just filmed my lavender reboot video today, and it'll go up on Friday. Shameless plug, I guess. And because of scaleless, we know what lavender is now. We would not know without it. We would not have suspected without it. So lavender is inherently hypomelanistic, but it's not a pigment mutation. It is a scale mutation. It prevents us from seeing the skin color. And without scaleless, we would never know that a lavender under those scales is actually red. And so I'm so grateful that we have scaleless, because we're finding things out about different morphs that we never would have known otherwise. But I am indifferent to it otherwise. I don't think that it's like an inherently bad thing. I mean, people were euthanizing the original amelanistics because it was a mutant, So it's like they were only for studying in labs. They weren't something that you were supposed to ever like own because they were mutants. And so a lot of people have a similar feeling about scaleless, because how can you have a snake without scales? And it's like, well, how do you have a snake without melanin, So it's like, it's the same thing. So I have no interest in having them, breeding them, touching them, looking at them. Like, I could care less that they exist, except I am happy for what they have done for the hobby. And they also helped spark interest in the hobby as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because I kind of remember when they became popular, corn snakes were kind of like a dying hobby a little bit. Not like dying, but that really helped spark more interest for a lot of people, seeing this like extra weird thing. But then because they looked into that extra weird thing, they found out all of these other cool and also kind of weird things that they might actually be interested in. So I think that it's a positive for the hobby. I think that as long as they're well taken care of, I don't care. Do what you want. That's it. That's how I feel about it. It's a like a +1 for me.
I will honestly admit, without the invigoration of the scaleless corns in that 2006 2009 era, is kind of like there. I feel like the corn snake hobby, because we're starting to see a lot of people. So people breeding in 2022, people breeding in 2020, let's say 2015 era is when corn snakes started picking up again, maybe 2013. A lot of that was proliferated by the scaleless gene.
Yeah.
Right. This was not looked at by ball python guys, by retic guys, by the guys that were getting their names out. It wasn't You know, how many times were morph deep dives looked at in Reptiles magazine? Hey, yo, Reptiles magazine, hit me up. You know, if you guys want any articles. But you needed something shocking, right?
Yeah.
This was such a, and now it is a hybrid. We know that it immediately came from Emery. We know the
Microscale didn't though.
Microscale did not.
Yeah.
And so we'll maybe
yeah,
tap
we'll
on
circle it
Microscale
back.
here in a
That's
minute.
fine.
Yeah, we'll circle back on Microscale because that's a very interesting thing that kind of is not. It's just passed over. We'll put it with Terrazzo, right? Like your Microscale Terrazzo is, anyways. We'll get there. But yeah, without the scaleless corns, there's a lot of people that. I mean, there's even people I know personally that wouldn't even have gotten into corn snakes if there wasn't a scaleless corn snake.
Right.
Right. We had scaleless Texas rats, and we all realized that Texas rats are absolute giant pieces of shit. And as a person who finds them, I love them. They're gorgeous snakes. They're beautiful, but they all suck. They were all 6 foot long. They all wanted to kill you, and they have four eggs at a time, maybe 9. And then they were like, okay, well, look, here's this Emery that's scaleless. There are 0 scaleless Emery in the hobby because as far as I know, and this is just me going back on lineage and doing a little deep dive on my own, it immediately got put into corn snakes.
Yeah,
right?
that was the first thing it did.
Yeah, the Gutatis complex animal. And now we can kind of look at corn snakes and say that we have corn snakes in the wild, and we have, wild lineages, and we have our red zeppelins and stuff like that are wonderful animals.
Yeah.
But red zeppelins are amazing. And
yeah, they're beautiful.
But we have hobby corns, right?
Yeah.
And like you've talked about many times in your videos, some of these animals have questionable pasts, and whether I have a little bit of, it would take a lot of work to make certain tesseras or something to actually look like a corn snake. That's my opinion. You would have to breed a California king snake Newport morph and do a corn snake for many generations to make it look like a corn snake again. And that's how I feel on it, but we're not going to get into that. But yeah, so you have a Gutatis complex animal. You're immediately putting it into corn snakes. Why would you not? It's a cash cow. I understand. We like money. And so, yeah, but if it was not, I would honestly say the corn snake hobby, which is definitely invigorated now, like it's people are drooling over corn snakes again, kind of wouldn't have happened without scaleless. And one of the things that I found so amazing about scaleless now, it's kind of petering out a little bit.
Yeah. It kind of lost its spark. People who wanted it got it. People who didn't want it still don't care about it. So we're there.
Yeah, I'll always say some of the most beautiful corn snakes I've ever seen are scaleless. Like it's amazing.
For sure.
Maybe that's not going to be in my collection. I'm a little indifferent about it, but yeah, it's such a weird thing that happened. And anyways, there's another morph that I did want to talk to you about, kind of along the same lines. What are your thoughts and feelings about palmetto corn snakes?
Oh, similar, very similar. I think that they are cool, but I also do not care about them. It's like, I think that they were really interesting when they first came out. And again, It was another one of those things that really lit a spark under, the fire of the corn snake community. People were like, what do you mean I can get this white spotted, calico looking snake? And I did like them because at the time I did have my calico Chinese beauties, and similar look, not exactly the same, but similar. So I thought that they were interesting, and I remember being very excited when they were proven out. But it just was never something that I don't think it's a hybrid. Even if it was, I'm not really sure how much it matters at this point. Right. There's a lot of hybrids in this hobby, like ultra hybrid, scaleless hybrid. Even if Tessera was a hybrid, at this point, what's it really matter?
Domesticated animals, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with palmetto. So I don't necessarily believe it's a hybrid. To me, it looks like corn enough. And the fact that they found a couple in the same area, but one of them had already been killed, kind of tells me that it probably was just it happens where you have 2 corn snakes and you breed them, and then you hatch 5 or 6 of these weird morphs. That's what happened with Kathy Love's Sunkiss. It's like she's breeding these Okatees, and then one day there's like a bunch of Sunkissed. So it happens, and it has happened in the wild. And I don't necessarily think it's a hybrid, and I don't really care if it is. I think that they're really cool. I don't think I'll ever breed them though because of the eye issue.
Inherent kind of genetic degradation.
Yeah, that's not going to go away. It doesn't go away. The same, I did this whole video on why it's not going to go away. And the gist of it is like the same mutation that causes the leucism I guess I should say the gene that causes or like controls where the pigment goes, also controls how many cells go into the eyeballs.
Yeah.
And so if you mutate that, it can affect the eyeballs, and it has. And you know, so it doesn't all the time, but it does seem to, like, if you just from like anecdotal evidence from people that I've talked to, if you have one that has the big eyes and you breed it, its offspring are more likely to have the big eyes. But it's not necessarily like if they don't have big eyes, they're less likely. Like, it's pretty much you're gonna get it. It's not going to go away. You can't breed it out. So it's like with lavenders and kinking, like that was a big thing. Like, oh, lavender's kink. Not all lines of lavender kink. And like, it sucks if you get a line of lavender that kinks, you should probably just not breed them. But like, those have been bred out, and the bloodline has been diluted enough that that's not an issue really anymore. But that's not going to be able to happen with palmettos. Those eyes are always going to be a thing that can happen. So I just don't really want to deal with it. I don't, you know, and it's like, what do you do? We don't know if those snakes, we don't yet know if they suffer. So I just, until we know for sure whether they suffer or not, I'm not planning on producing any or selling any, you know.
I think that's a good position to take on it. Yeah. And also a lot of people don't talk about it. They also have a very low survival rate, just inherently. You know, I've seen people take head to head out of wild caught animals and just have low clutch survival rates. Not necessarily. I mean, who cares if they want to eat or not? We've got to deal with that with certain lineages regardless, right? Like, it's on us for breeders to get them eating. But you know, so what do you think about, you know, recently we've seen a lot of price increases on morphs, and you know, on this hobby as a whole, what are you thinking about? You know, are you happy to see the price increases? Are you think that's appropriate for the animals, the work we're putting into it? You think that's just necessarily the times we're dealing with, or you know, what are your thoughts on
that? I have mixed feelings about it. I think obviously it's good for sellers when you can actually make money off of something that you're doing, because this price increase, I think for some people, not necessarily me, but it allowed for corn snakes to actually be a supplemental income. Finally, like, if you like, there's obviously people who do corn snakes full time. So like Steve Roy Lance, I think, does it full time. Walter Smith at least did it full time. I believe SMR did or does it full time. Not 100% sure. So there's all these big names that do it full time, but they have hundreds of snakes. That is their life. That is what they do. And I know for sure, at least for some of them, that they just wholesale out a bunch of stuff. Like, they just make stuff and wholesale it out to who knows who. And that's how they make their money, and that's fine. Whatever. But I think that this price increase did allow for a more casual keeper to actually say, you know what, this job that I hate, that I've been working 40 to 60 hours a week, I'm going to go down to 30 hours a week now, because I'm making enough money that the corn snakes are supplementing what I would be making. And I think that that's really positive, and I love that. I think that it can tip too far, though. And I think that because things in our economy overall are not necessarily going to be going back up anytime soon, I think that they may kind of continue to keep getting worse for a little while. And so I don't think that this is going to be a permanent price increase. I think that maybe within the next couple of years, it may kind of go back down a bit. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong, genuinely. Like, I hope that this is more sustainable. But for me, as a breeder, who doesn't make a whole lot of money on snakes, I make a little bit. I'm more than break even, but it's not enough for me to like say that I like make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard for me to right now go purchase any snakes for projects. I'm like, yeah, I would love to start a Terrazzo project, but even Terrazzos, which is kind of the reject morph of the day, those are selling for $250 a piece. That's a lot of hours that I have to work, and I have a mortgage, so um, for someone like me who would really love a new project, I can't afford to go buy project snakes. And even if I could afford it now, there's no guarantee that the snakes are going to pay themselves off in 3 years, because who knows what the economy is going to look like. And I know that sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. You just do. You have to say, you know what, I have a passion for this project. This is something that I'm putting in because it is worth my time for me, and I enjoy it. And that's why a lot of people, I think, are willing to spend the extra money on snakes right now. It's, you know what, I am investing in a pet that I'm going to have for the next 15 or however many years. And they are willing to do that. It's like they'd be willing to spend $500 on a dog, so they're willing to spend $500 on a snake. And that's great. And I love that. And there are those people out there. I don't think that snakes are as accessible now to people who want them. So that's another issue that I have, is like, I don't like it when people are like, hey, I would love to get this snake, but like I can't afford it. Because like I always say, if you cannot afford the pet, the vet, you can't afford the pet. I'm like mixed up here. If you can't afford the vet, you can't afford the pet. And I get that. But a typical vet visit for a snake is what, like maybe $100, maybe less, depends on what you're having done. But usually it's cheaper than a cat or dog. And so when the snake's price is like 3 or 4 times the vet price, I mean, you're really not, that doesn't apply anymore. And so I feel really bad charging what other people are charging. And I was reprimanded for that this year by a bigger breeder. Like, hey, you're messing stuff up for us because you're selling things for 150 instead of 250. Please stop. And I'm like, but I want people to be able to have the joy, that experience. And I know that not everybody's going to be able to afford $250. Like, so I have mixed feelings. It's all over the place, and I don't have a straight answer.
You also don't have 50 babies you're selling. It's it's like you only have a handful. So you can't. Can you realistically single-handedly crash a certain market?
Well, and
10,
that's
15 babies like.
So I have mixed feelings on it, but I think it's overall a positive. I just do think that we need to be careful not to push it too far, because if we make it so no one can possibly purchase our animals because of their price, then that means no one buys our animals.
Right.
And that means that we're stuck feeding them. And not only that, but it's like, then people just like aren't having pet snakes, and then people lose interest. And so I just think
people drop their prices, and you end up in that same position regardless.
Yeah. So I just think it's good to make sure that we're meeting the customers in the middle, I guess, is the best way to put it.
There's, I had a moment this year with a breeder for a different species that kind of got onto me and said, hey, you're selling your animals a little too cheap. I'd appreciate it if you increase your prices. And I said, hey, you know what? I actually have a great deal that I'll do. I'll knock a certain percentage off of every single one of them, and you can buy every one of them from under me. That's fine.
Yeah, and sell them, resell them if you want.
Yeah, I genuinely price my animals relatively low.
Same here.
I'm in this position where this is a hobby. I would love to do it full time, and maybe someday I will. But at that point, I'll have already been retired from my career. The person that in fact got onto me was not doing this full time, right? They were just a hobby breeder as well, and they were like, this is just, it's kind of unfair if they could just buy them from you. And I was like, well, I'll even make a special deal. I'll lower the price even more, and you could buy all of them. And so how that ended and where it ended is kind of irrelevant, but they did end up buying all my animals, and well, not all of my animals, but the animals that I was selling at the time. And this is not a regulated market. And if anybody has a problem with the price in which you are selling your animals for, whether it is high or low, you are very welcome to eat your own asshole. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
That's
kind of how I felt. Yeah, that's how I felt too. Yeah.
Chondros are a
I don't
big
know
one, Justin.
I don't know who would pay that, but whatever. And sure enough, then they're sold on Morph Market. It's like someone will. I think it's ridiculous, but whatever.
Yeah,
No
like
props.
yeah, when I was seeing like just regular amelanistics selling for like $120, I about pooped myself because I was like, I remember like just a few years ago, I couldn't sell an amelanistic for like $30. Okay,
right.
So like the fact that someone's selling it just a regular old amel for $100 more than it was selling, 3 or 4 years ago, I was just like, I just don't think that people are going to be down for that for very long. Especially the more breeders we get in the hobby, they're not going to buy regular amelanistics for $150.
Nope.
They can get 2 normal het amels and produce those amelanistics for like a third the price. So
I truly believe that what may have in 2003, let's go back to when we were kind of getting into this hobby, AML was a $35 snake, right? That's it.
Yeah.
I think that now, and I have sold every one of my AMLs for $75 to maybe $85.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's about where I'm at. Yeah,
and I sold out, right?
Yeah,
no questions asked.
Yeah,
and I am happy to sell those animals at that price because Sarah, like you, I'll close my books at the end of the year, look at how much money I spent. Time, how much is my time worth?
Yeah.
As long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, it's free. If
Yeah.
it starts feeling like work, I get real expensive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, and we could all play that game, right? Where we say, okay, how much do I get paid an hour at work? And there's a huge range. And so how many hours have I put into my hobby? I put hundreds and hundreds of hours a year into my hobby.
Oh, same.
But I would be doing that regardless.
Yeah,
because I love this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there's we start getting into the math and the calculations of it, and yeah, I'm glad that there was a price increase on these animals across the board because it was deserved.
For sure.
At $35 a piece, I can't sell snakes and pay my food bill, right?
Yes, correct.
It costs about $50 a year to feed an adult, give or take. Now with my mouse prices now, probably close to $60 a year to feed an adult. Multiply that times 2, so now I've got $200 per adult. I got a clutch of, let's say, 12 to 15, and it's a dollar per pinky per baby, and I know it's probably less than that, and I understand, but now, okay, I get 3 to 5 feedings in them. Maybe I want to go to 10. Maybe I hold one back because it looks good. You're looking at one clutch of 15 snakes is a couple $100. So when I sell my 15 snakes, I would sure like to see, I don't know, for 15 animals, I'd like to see at least $1,000 back. Because
that'd be great.
And this is even devoiding myself of the time that I put into it. Water bowls and poop cleans, tub cleans, and enclosure cleans. Goodness, we could talk about that for hours. But yeah, I'm with you. I think there was absolute room for the price increase, and I'm glad there was. But yeah, the people that think that you need to be egregious with this, you're going to price people out of this hobby.
Yeah.
And it's not going to do the same thing that ball pythons did. This is not the next ball python. The next ball python will never happen again, right?
Yeah.
That was a very unique secular situation that happened. So, anyways, I'm glad you feel that way about it. I think it's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think that anybody should be going to anybody else and being like, "Hey, I can't sell my snakes because yours are too cheap." It's like, okay, then just buy all my snakes.
It's a big old bucket about your business, right? Like,
it's like, the person that said that to me this last year is like, well, this isn't nobody's manipulating the market. And I was like, okay, but you're trying to do that right now by telling me how I should be pricing my animals. Yeah. So like, if you're not trying to manipulate the market, just buy my snakes.
Yeah.
And sell them, which did not happen. The snakes that they were concerned about, the whole clutch ended up actually going to a big school project for a local elementary school where the kids were taking care of snakes in classrooms, and I was happy to let them go to that instead of having to deal with any other drama. Yeah, and that's the thing. And they went so cheap. Like I could have raised my prices to $250 a snake, and gotten a few $1,000s out of that clutch. But instead, I lowered them to $50 a snake from like 120 or something, for the sake of these elementary school kids. Because to me, that's more important.
Yeah.
It's more important to do that than it is to make sure that I'm following some
Rule.
yeah,
No rules.
of like you have to price it the same way that the big people are pricing it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't have to do that. I do what I want. That's one thing that people don't like about me is I just do what I want.
Well, the thing too is like if you were getting out of everything and it was a situation where you had to sell things ASAP, like get everything gone, like they wouldn't, people wouldn't complain about that if that were the case.
Right. Yeah, but that's because then I wouldn't be competition anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
I guarantee you, it's a situation of being in the limelight. People are like, "Oh, I want," but you know what? I bet, anyways.
If they put as much effort into their YouTube channel as I do, they might have that same like following and that same appeal. But they don't.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, you're not putting any effort into advertising except for posting on your Facebook page once every couple of days. So like, don't come to me and tell me that I'm not working hard enough for what I'm doing and that I don't deserve to set my own prices.
But I could go on with this forever. Free like I do already. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, for you, obviously. I mean, I don't know how the video works.
It's it's basically
yeah, but that's the thing. Is like you come over here, clean my snake shit. Clean my water bowls.
Sure.
Buy me new water bowls because we have to buy new water bowls all the time.
Right,
buy
every year.
Bedding.
Yep.
Come on over. You do that, and I'll raise my prices. Ain't even a question. And,
sure.
You're absolutely right. No, the market is huge. We are little. We are small little farts in the wind that is a giant asshole, right?
Yeah.
And so we can. Yes, we could take advantage of prices going up, and we could. I say take advantage. It's not taking advantage, but we can respect it. But at the same time, you can't tell me that my 5-gene animal should only be sold at $500, $600, $700 because I'm not flooding the market. I produce.
Right.
I don't know this, but I'm gonna guess that people giving you a hard time aren't producing 100 snakes. No, like we produce 100 animals, maybe if we're lucky that year.
Yeah,
they're probably in the thousands, or at least egregiously larger than us. And so it's our values are dictated by what we put into it and the work that we put into it and what we think they're worth. And so nobody. But anyways, this could be a long.
It could be. We could sit here and talk about that forever, I think.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite morph of corn snake?
Ultra
single ultra.
Oh. Well, that's 2, I guess. So ultra, I guess. If I had to pick like a single gene mutation.
But Ultramel works. Ultramel
is what I would say. Yeah.
Is there a combination you like the most out of Ultramel?
Gold Dust Motley. No question. Yep. Gold Dust Motley was it just has always been my favorite thing, and they vary more than you think they're going to. And especially the Gold Dust Motley that I hatched in 2020 with the like really thick Okatee borders. I never in a million years would have thought that that I would have a snake that looked like her. And awesome. She almost has, she doesn't have any like cool special lineage, except she did come from a Halo line. There's Halo on both sides, which is why I this was a project where I was combining the 2 Halo lines to kind of see what was going to go on there. And there's no like actual like known Okatee in the background because I got like the grandsire for free. He was just dropped off to me. Like I said, I went through a period of my life where people just dropped random snakes off to me and then ended up having babies. So like, but he looked semi like reverse Okatee, but like there's no other like very prominent Okatee look in the line, except for just the fact that Halo by itself, like if you want better Halos, they gotta have thicker borders. But then just with Motley, she has like a very light Miami colored background, and then she has just like those golden like just what would have been like a ground color like saddle blotch. I don't even know how to describe her, but then she's got those thick dark borders, and there's no way that she's not a gold dust mottling. That's the only thing that she could be based on her parents. And that combination has just always struck me as being just like so beautiful. I love yellow corn snakes. Just anything with yellow is always been one of my favorites.
Looks damn good on a snake.
It does, especially like, I don't know, a snake that you can just like hold and look at. Like you just don't see that very often. I don't know. Like there's some snakes that are yellow that you don't touch. They're an over there snake. But like the ones that can be right there, I don't know. They're just
honestly, in the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of yellow snakes that stay yellow.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and Justin, look at your yellow chondros that come out as babies. How many yellow adults are there, right? It's a very uncommon
thing. It's a certain line, yeah.
People talk about blue snakes that are just amazing, and blue is such an amazing color. We're not going to see that in corns. Honestly,
yeah, probably
not. But yellow is very indicative of the animals that have that heavy erythrin that can kind of make that happen. Anyways, I don't know. Do you have a favorite snake?
I thought about this because I got the like sort of prompts or whatever, and it's so hard because I love them so much, like all of them, and they all like have their own special place. Some of them I dislike, some of them I actively dislike. But I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it'd have to be the son of my Halo male, my original Halo. His name is Frangipani, which is a yellow flower. He was from the yellow flower clutch, and he is such a sweetheart. And if somebody wants to see like a corn snake adult, he's the one I go for because he's so sweet and he's so beautiful, and he's just got that pristine like white, yellow, pink color pattern to him, and he's just like he's great. And just the fact that he's the son of my original Halo. From my very first clutch of corn snakes, like it always takes me back to my roots in a way, kind of like where I think about that project and I just think about like why I'm doing this and why I started doing this in the first place, and like why when that first clutch of eggs started hatching, did that like keep me going forever on this. And I think so. Awesome. I think part of it's just because of the nostalgia that comes with that line. But the female, his sister, who is a green blotch, I love her also, but she's also kind of spicy. So I don't really like handle her that much. And especially she's gravid right now. Like she's one of those that when she gets gravid, she is like heavy gravid, you know what I mean? Some of them you can't hardly tell, they just have eggs one day. But then she's one of those where it's like you just look at her from like across the room and you know she is full of eggs. So she is always grumpy, and at least when she's gravid she's grumpy. So like I don't have a super great relationship with her, but the male I really enjoy.
That's awesome. And I like the fact that it's immediately tied to like a personal relationship with the animal. That's awesome. What is the future of your YouTube channel?
Honestly, probably very similar to the present, I hope.
Good.
I'm going to keep doing morph deep dives until there are no more to do. And, it's like I have enough content through like every morph combination ever, pretty much. So like, and I may not go to that extent, but like I have quite a lot of options for the future with that. And I also have been redoing old morph deep dives that I did, like as new information comes out, or now that I actually have like good video editing software, I'm going back and redoing them. Like the lavender video I just did is a redo from a lavender video I did like a year or two ago. Because I remember when I did that video, I literally had to print out pictures and hold them up to the screen of like, this is what a lavender looks like. And so now I'm redoing those old things. And I'm doing book reviews, which I think as much as they are not popular on my channel, I appreciate that. They're not super popular. They really have the lowest view count of any style of video that I've done. But I think it's important for people getting into the hobby who want to know where to get good information. So it's like I have bought these books and read these books so that you know which books to buy and to avoid. And because that's another thing is people always ask me like, well, which book should I get? And, which books should I avoid? And which authors should I avoid? And I thought I'm just going to buy every corn snake book on Amazon, which by the way, cost me more money than Amazon has made me, or not Amazon, YouTube. has made
Yeah.
me. So like I have not made money on YouTube, even though I'm monetized. Like I spent all that money on corn snake books for the channel already. And I'm just going through them, reading through them, saying, okay, this is a 2 out of 10, a 5 out of 10, a 10 out of 10, so that people know what to buy or to avoid. So I'm going to keep doing those until I run out of corn snake books, and there's an unfortunately high number of corn snake books, so that's going to be a while. That's going to be at least a few years of videos for me. And just, you know, Q&A videos whenever they come up. I'll probably do one of those at the end of the month, and I don't know. Just like whatever I feel like it's this. My channel's always been just whatever I feel like. I didn't really pick up on it until, I didn't really do a whole lot with it until about 2019, and that's when I really like started caring about it. And I don't know why I started caring about it back then, but I did, and so it has evolved into what it is now. I used to just do morph deep dives whenever someone would ask me for one, but now I actually have like a schedule where it's like, okay, there's about 4 weeks in a month, and so on the first week I'm going to do this, second week is this, third, fourth, and it's on a nice schedule now, and that makes it easier for me because I always know what I'm going to be doing, and so I can write scripts ahead of time. Sometimes I even record a whole month ahead of time. I'll spend one full like Sunday afternoon just recording a bunch of videos, and so then I have like a few weeks off. And that's always nice. So I think that it's going to be whatever I want it to be, and whatever other people request from me, really, as long as it's within reason, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. It's going to be natural. It's going to be a thing that you're going to do at your own pace. And like you said, you know, a couple $100 from YouTube is not paying for these videos.
No, it's not.
The amount of information that's getting out there.
Yeah.
Justin, did you have any more corn snake questions?
I don't think so.
Because there's one more topic we have to talk about. So.
why MTG is better than any other.
So I am personally a very big Pokemon fan.
Yeah, you can see my lovely collection of Pokemon.
And I know you have a channel and you talk about Pokemon stuff.
There.
You know, it was derivative of me as a young man playing Magic the Gathering, which led into me playing the Pokemon card game.
Yep.
Which turns out I still somewhere I need to find them. Is I have all the original Pokemon cards.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're somewhere. I'm guessing my parents' house. I don't know. They're somewhere.
Dude, they would be worth so much more money now. I'm just telling you, they would be.
Yeah, I've heard they're like even just like the regular stuff is valuable.
Yeah.
But I am a huge Pokemon fan. Did your love of Pokemon lead into snake keeping, or is there anything reflective in that?
I don't think that they're related in any way. But like Pokemon was definitely something that I was obsessed with as a child. I have always been a collector of things.
Yeah.
And the Pokemon cards, I didn't care if I had the whole collection. That was never what I cared about. What I cared about was, do I like the things I have? And when I was a kid, my favorite thing to do, I also had Beanie Babies. So like I was a Beanie Baby kid too.
Yeah.
And I was also like, I also really liked to collect rocks when I was a kid. And my mom like one day like threw them out in the driveway, and I was so sad because she's like, they're just rocks. And I was like, but you don't understand. I picked out this rock.
My 5-year-old, I'm gonna step in real quick, has a massive rock collection from all the walks we go on, the hikes, the snake hunting. Me and her do little snake hunting and stuff. She actually goes with me snake hunting, which is amazing. She has a huge rock collection, and we're just like pressing on it. We're like, Lily, just keep collecting rocks. Anyways,
I wish that my parents had done that, because my mom did not like the fact that I just had rocks in my room, but it's fine. You know, it's the past. It doesn't hurt that much anymore. But I loved Pokemon cards, and I would spend hours as a kid. Like I have a younger brother, but he and I never really had much in common. And especially when we were young, he's 4 years younger than me. So when he was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I was, you know, like 8, 9, 10 years old, we just like didn't have anything in common at all. And what I wanted to do was sit in my room by myself and just like go through all of my Pokemon cards. I would dump them all out and I would resort them all. That was my favorite thing to do, was just to sit and sort Pokemon cards for hours. And I entertained myself 4 hours doing that. And so I don't know. Like, and I also played the games. I loved playing the games as a kid. That
Yeah.
was
What
my
was your first game that you
video
played?
game. The first Pokemon game was on the Game Boy Color, and I think it was Pokemon Yellow.
Okay.
I think. I can't remember if it was. I know my grandma got yellow and she got red. And I can't remember if it was my brother who got yellow or if I got yellow, but I think he got red because red was his favorite color. So like pretty sure that I had yellow, but we kind of shared the game, which was weird. Like we would share
That's
our games
awesome.
because
Such a
like
good game.
yeah, Pokemon Yellow was great. And I remember like the only thing I genuinely remember about my childhood from that game was at the end they're like, you can go to Cerulean Cave, and I was like, I don't know why I would do that. And like months go by and my friend's like, what do you mean you haven't gotten Mewtwo yet? Like, what's your problem? And it was just like, what do you mean if I go to Cerulean Cave I get Mewtwo? So I don't know. And I think I got Crystal, Gold, Silver, and Crystal version is probably my favorite version of all of the games. And like it just like never died. My love for that just never died. And it kind of like died down a little bit. But now that I'm 30 and like not really sure what my future plans with like kids or whatever is gonna be, I'm just like, I'm just gonna start collecting plushies now. This is my new collection of Pokemon plushies. And there's some extras back there. I don't even know. Like I don't know if you can see this one right here is a penis plushie.
A do what?
It's a penis plushie.
In a jail here.
It's like a little chode, and his name is Squish, and I love him so much. My husband got that for me because I saw it online, and it's got eyes in a little face, and it's so cute. So I used to sleep. I used to sleep with it because it's anyway. So
cute. Love it.
That's my plushie collection, and that Meowth in the corner. I don't know if you can see it, but it's still like in the box. Like I don't know, but I got that. That's like one of the very first Meowth plushies that were ever made, and so that's fun. So yeah, I don't know. I do have a YouTube channel for it. It's just under Joy Princess Sarah. Joy Princess Sarah is kind of like my other alter ego. Like I have Sarah's Snake Shop, and then when I have to make like a username, it's always Rika27. So if you ever see Rika27 on any like games, it's probably me. And then like Joy Princess Sarah is like my other sort of alter ego that I go by, and it's because princess is what Sarah means. Like I don't know. I guess like the name Sarah means princess in Hebrew or something like that. So that's where that came from. And so that's my other YouTube channel. If anyone would like to subscribe, I need 50 subscribers before I can do lives on that channel, and I only have 8. So I would love to do lives on that channel, and I've been doing lives on my like Snake Shop channel, and then like making them like taking them down from that channel and then re-uploading them to my second channel, because like that's the only way that I've been able to do lives on that. But it's been fun. Like I beat Legends Arceus or most of it, and
that's a weird game. It's interesting. I played it as well.
It's super fun.
I'm like anything. So I'm going to talk a little bit. My dad took me and stood in line so I could buy Pokemon Red that I played on my, Pokemon Red and Blue. I could play on my. I just had a Game Boy. I didn't have Game Boy Color.
Oh, gotcha.
And so I remember that, and that it died away, right? Like I got into the card game. That was a byproduct of Magic the Gathering, and then later on in life, kind of in like my 30s, somewhere in there, I was like, man, Pokemon was great.
Yeah.
And so I started playing the games again, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And my kid loves Pokemon. We watched the old cartoon that I used to watch on the weekends.
Yeah, same here.
So yeah, I went through Sword and Shield, and then the new Arceus, and I'm super excited about this new open world game they're going to come out with. But
me too.
Pokemon's a wonderful, wonderful, very genuinely. I say like guilty pleasure, kind of innocent, good thing that there's nothing that you in all ages can enjoy it, and it's
just a very like pure experience. It's just pure fun. You can't like because nothing in it is like dangerous or really or like scarring really for a child. Like it's not because like there's other games.
Say what? The Gathering's a little rough.
Yeah, and I mean I also. like, I'm a huge Zelda person. Like, Zelda is actually my real obsession. Like,
Girl.
I love Pokemon,
Don't get
but
me started on
Zelda,
Zelda. I am obsessed with Zelda.
I have a whole Zelda wall in the other room, like
That's
just a
amazing.
whole wall of Zelda stuff.
Breath of
And
the Wild 2 can't come out faster.
yeah,
Ooh-wee.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But like for a child, that's a little
Yeah,
much. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely,
there's
yeah.
you got to be in the right mindset. I did not play Majora's Mask. That was way too like stressful for me as a child. Just like having a time limit, I was like, no, I can't. I have to explore. Zelda is for exploring. Zelda is not for let's rush before we die. So but yes, all video game, pretty much Nintendo, just like
Yeah.
all Nintendo things.
Yeah,
And but like yeah,
absolutely.
Pokemon is just like nice, pure fun, and you get these cute little monsters, and you can get plushies of them, and you know, it's just fun. I just like it, and it's across all platforms. Really,
Yeah.
you can play the video games, you can play the card games, you can get plushies, you can watch the TV show. I just really like it. And I know that I'm an adult. I know that I'm almost 31 years old
Yeah.
and I'm into these somewhat childish things. But, like, you know, if I think about my parents when they were 30, like, my dad still liked the things that he liked when he was 10, when he was 30. And so, even though it may seem childish, that's just a part of what we were growing up,
Yeah.
and it doesn't just leave you.
No.
And you know, it's like, and also just let me enjoy my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like
Exactly.
anybody who's gonna come at me and judge me for the things that I enjoy, like, go mind your business.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
Don't make fun of my hobbies. I don't make fun of you being an asshole.
Yeah, pretty much. I will call you out on it too in public.
Good. That's awesome.
Well, where can people find you?
Everywhere, but mostly I am on Facebook daily. So it's Sarah's Snake Shop on Facebook. I have sarahsnakeshop.com, all one word. I do have an H at the end of my name. So that's like a thing a lot of people forget, is that I'm like the biblical Sarah, not the fake Sarah. Sorry to disappoint any of you imposters out there. But the H is the real Sarah. I can be found on Instagram at Joy Princess Sarah. Same with TikTok. My TikTok lately has been very personal stuff. And also, I like to grow mushrooms as a hobby. We have oyster mushrooms, we have lion's mane mushrooms. So, like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff on there, and like a lot of stuff about my gardening and all that. So, like, the TikTok is more of just like more of a personal space and like things that are not snake related. But I also have Joy Princess Sarah, of course, on my second YouTube channel if you want Pokemon stuff. I've been doing a lot of Pokemon card specific things, but what I'd really like to do is start live streaming Pokemon, because it's like, if I'm playing the games anyway, I talk out loud to myself all the time. I might as well be talking to a chat. So like, I'd like to do that. If I got more subscribers and could actually like go live, I would. But I can't yet because I need those 50 subscribers. So like, I guess that's it. Let's see. I have other things, but like I have a Twitter, but don't even try. I'm not going to get on it. And I think that's it. Like, just the Facebook, I'm on daily. Instagram, Joy Princess Sarah, I'm on there daily, most of the time. I try to post snake pictures on there every day, but sometimes I miss a day. And then obviously YouTube, Sarah Snake Shop on YouTube.
You moderate the Corn Snake ID group, right?
Yeah, Corn Snake Morph ID help. I'm one of the main admins, and I'm on there pretty much all the time. Like all the time, like pretty much anytime my phone has a notification, it's something on there. So like that's a way that you can contact me. If you want to contact me, it's joyprincesssarah@gmail.com. So if it's more of a personal contact, that's the best place to reach me. Or on my Snake Shop page on Facebook. So Sarah's Snake Shop on Facebook is a good way to reach me as well.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Been a great episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and like, I don't know, I guess I see a lot of things in a slightly different light after this podcast, and I felt like it was nice to just sit and have a nice conversation where we're all just like chill and honest with each other about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's nice to just and to hear about you guys breeding different species too, because I really only have corn snakes right now, and I hope to branch out into other things, but like it's really cool to hear what everybody's got going on.
There's just too much cool stuff out there.
There's way too much cool stuff. Gotta collect them all. Oh my gosh.
Is this what I've been doing my whole life?
It's all subconscious. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I need therapy now.
We all do.
Yeah, sure.
Honestly.
Yeah, just set aside an extra like $100 a month and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
My snakes will pay for my therapy. That makes sense, right?
With the increased prices from 2022 to 2023.
Right? Exactly. I guess we'll see how it goes this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, buy my snakes. I'm just trying to hit therapy just once a month. You know, $1,200 gets me through a year, but you know.
Yeah, right.
I to some extent, I think this is our therapy. You know,
a little bit. Yeah.
This is our love. This is our passion. This is our get together. You know, whether we get to see each other in person or not, this is, you know, it's wonderful enough. We get to let ourselves be just us, right?
Yeah. How many White Claws did you have?
What's that?
How many White Claws did you have?
Yeah, about on number 6 right now. So
I had 3 last night and woke up with a hangover today, so that's not gonna happen for me.
Shout out to my no hangover genetics. You know, Dad, thanks for being an alcoholic. You know, he really put it on me solid. So,
yeah, I need to complain to my grandpa as to why that did not pass on to me. Excuse me, why can't I have that? Give me that resilience to being hungover.
You can hydrate at the same time as getting hammered. 2022, we have alcoholic water.
Yes, sir.
Actually, when I had White Claws the other day, I was mixing like electrolyte G Fuel in it, so that like it would give me some extra electrolytes and extra flavor. So very good.
Water.
I can barely.
You're not getting drunk.
I can barely put caffeine in this body. I just can't do it. No electrolytes, no caffeine. Just alcohol and water. Let's go.
Just alcohol and water and cigars.
Yeah, and cigars. Cigars are good.
Good old nicotine. Kick it off.
Nicotine's good for you.
You know, I've heard that. I've heard that from certain people for sure.
Cigars really are very calming, very relaxing. They're very studious as well. You should try a cigar.
I have never tried a cigar. I do not. I've never smoked anything, which might sound crazy, but never smoked anything. I was a sheltered, you know, sheltered Indiana child.
Well, cigars are very, you know, FDA came out and said that 3 to 5 cigars a day is still not a dangerous thing. So if you have a cigar, I smoke a couple a week. It's a healthy thing. Justin, you smoke a lot of cigars. You're a healthy guy. So
for the most part.
Yeah, cigars are, for the most part.
I guess.
Cigars are not deteriorative to your health, so.
Okay, that's good to know.
I may have just made that word up, and that's okay.
You know what? I understood what you meant, and language is fluid, so screw anybody who says otherwise.
This episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com and SilentHillReptiles.com. Please check out both Facebook, Instagram. Follow Mr. Paintshab at Badlands Herpeticulture. Is it Badlands _? You have
Badlands _Herpeticulture at Instagram. And I don't post a lot of pictures, but so just message me because I suck at social media. I'm the worst at it. So just message me. Just bug me. I love talking to people.
Yeah.
You can find me at Palmetto Coast Exotics, Facebook, Instagram, theherpeticulturenetwork.com. It has now been switched over from the magazine to the network officially. So adding content to that as we go. We will be back Monday night for Snakes and Stogies 115.
Woo!
It's getting hard to keep track of it all.
I do be like that.
Yeah.
It is tough. Just don't keep track of any of it. That's my.
Yeah,
just keep going. Who cares?
I just post stuff in my stories, and I never post pictures, and then I get people complaining that I don't post anything on my Instagram.
You send more pictures to us in the chat than you do post.
I don't really know how to get my hashtags to work, where I can just post all my hashtags.
You just save it to your clipboard and then.
What's a clipboard? No. What's that, Justin?
All right. On that note, everyone have a good evening. Say goodbye, Chris.
Bye. I love you guys.
Bye, Chris. But bye anyway.